The dragon abducted her to make her his wife, for the sole purpose of having her bear his offspring. But he did not know that she was the very little girl who had saved him 10 years ago. She was the only saintess in the world who possessed the power of healing. While running away from home, she came across a severely injured dragon. Even after suffering 10 years of abuse from her stepmother, she still could not bear to leave him to die. She gathered her courage and stepped forward to check on him, but the dragon opened his eyes in an instant, warning her not to come any closer. She raised her little hand and pointed at the injured wing. "Do you want me to heal your wounds?" But the dragon bared his fierce fangs at her angrily, yet she did not back away. Instead, she softly tried to calm him down. "Don't worry, I will heal you." She placed both hands on the dragon's wing, releasing a powerful healing force. The dragon felt that the pain was no longer as intense as before, and the wound was slowly healing bit by bit, but she collapsed because she had exhausted all her strength. The dragon stared at her blankly for a moment, then lifted his head to look toward the sky. As that enormous dragon body gradually disappeared, he transformed into a man clad in armor with an 8-pack. But she missed that scene. The man lowered his head and gazed at the unconscious girl. "She's got quite a lot of courage." In her dazed state, she felt someone speaking, and someone gently picked her up, but in the end, she was still sent back home. After coming of age, her stepmother planned to sell her to the old king as a concubine. She also dyed her jet black long hair blonde, but because cheap hair dye was used, her face broke out in red blotches because of it. The maid could only desperately cover them up with powder. Blonde-haired Lucina was clearly dazzlingly beautiful, yet her stepmother insisted she was so ugly that no one could bear to look at her. What if the king isn't satisfied? At that moment, her son jumped out and told his mother not to worry. "I have already prepared precious jewelry as her dowry, since it was dug out from a grave. Surely no one will know." But they did not know that disturbing the grave of the dragon clan's ancestors was the same as inviting catastrophe. Just then, the roof of their house was completely torn off. Lucina hurried outside to see what was happening, only to discover that the outside had already turned into a terrifying sea of purgatory-like flames. Countless dragons were breathing fire everywhere, and the people fled in all directions in panic. The city gate was also blasted open with a huge hole in an instant. Leading them was a man wearing a mask. Who would have thought that the moment their eyes met, Lucina would be so frightened that she immediately crouched down to hide. Because of that, she missed the handsome face beneath the mask. Anyone who dares insult the ancestors of the tired dragons will not be allowed to live. With a single order, the young dragon spewed fire even more fiercely. Her stepmother was so terrified that she quickly raised a white flag in surrender. Lucina, meanwhile, quietly escaped. She wanted to hide in the stone tower first, and then climb over the wall to escape once no one was around. But who would have thought that, in order to save her own life, her stepmother would turn around and give her up? "Wait, I have a noble and beautiful daughter. She is so beautiful that even the king wants to marry her. How about giving her to you?" After hearing that, the man actually seemed interested, because she knew that the old king and King Tyre had always been enemies. "Where is your daughter now?" At this moment, Lucina was desperately climbing down the 100-meter high castle. She wanted to use this opportunity to escape, but just then, she suddenly heard the sound of wings beating. The moment she looked up, she was grabbed at once by 2 giant claws. The dragon brought her before the king and set her down. After the man saw her appearance clearly, he could not help but let out a soft laugh. "She doesn't look that beautiful after all. It seems that old king has rather unusual taste and likes ugly women." But her eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky, and in an instant they reminded him of the little girl who had saved him 10 years ago. She had those same eyes back then, but the woman before him had blonde hair, so he concluded that she was not his savior. "Give me a few more days, and I will make her look even more beautiful before presenting her to your majesty." In the next second, a spear was suddenly pressed against her neck. The man gave her 2 choices: either become his mate, or disappear together with everyone in this castle. She did not want to die, so in the end she agreed to marry him. The man suddenly leaned closer and asked her name. She hesitated for a moment before softly telling him. "Lucina, in the Brienne language, it means moon. That name suits you very well. I will cherish you properly." After saying that, he immediately announced that the wedding would be held right there. He even casually found a priest to serve as their witness. After the wedding, he would have him inform the old king. Tell him that his bride has been taken away by his enemy, Håkon. If the old king heard this news, he would surely be so furious he would cough up blood. The priest tremblingly officiated the vows for the 2 of them. Seeing how pitifully quiet this wedding was, Håkon ordered someone to pick some wildflowers. He personally handed the flowers to Lucina. The venue may be lacking, but at least the ceremony should have some sense of occasion. She quickly reached out and accepted the bouquet. "This does look much better than before. Then let's begin." The priest stuttered his way through the wedding declaration. Next, the groom may kiss the bride. The moment Lucina heard those words, she immediately began trembling like a leaf. Hakan glanced at the frightened little rabbit beside him, then bent down and gently drew his bride into his arms. She only stared at him blankly, then closed her eyes and slowly leaned closer. The man seemed somewhat reluctant to let go, but the next second, Lucina fainted on the spot. He could not help finding it a little amusing, so he had no choice but to carry his sleeping bride onto the horse. For the sake of being my wife's close relatives, I will spare your lives for now. With that, he left with Lucina. When she woke up again in shock, she found that she was already in a carriage. His subordinate hurriedly told their king this piece of good news, but the moment she met her new husband's gaze, she still could not help shivering. In order to take care of her, Hakan ordered everyone to stop where they were and set up camp. He came outside Lucina's carriage and asked with concern whether she was feeling any better. Much better. He held out his hand to her, wanting to take her to eat something, but she said she was not hungry and that staying in the carriage was fine. Who would have known that the rumbling of her stomach would instantly betray her? The embarrassment came too quickly, and her face immediately flushed red. It made the man unable to stop himself from laughing. Even just coming out to warm yourself by the fire would be good. He gave her a way out, and Lucina stopped being awkward. Holding Hakan's hand, she got down from the carriage. After dismissing his subordinates, he invited his wife to sit in the tent. The moment she sat down, he took off that cloak filled with masculine warmth and thoughtfully draped it over her so that she would not catch cold. Lucina only felt a warmth spread through her heart. Hakan handed her a fragrant piece of bread. At the Baron's house, she had always eaten moldy food, so she could not help greedily breathing in the bread's aroma. But in Hakan's eyes, that action looked as though she suspected the food had been poisoned. Seeing that the man's expression did not look quite right, she quickly stuffed the bread into her mouth. The aroma and delicious taste of the food struck her taste buds together. It was so delicious that it felt as though even her hair was about to fly. She immediately began wolfing it down. The man quickly reminded her to slow down and be careful not to choke. He also thoughtfully handed her a cup of fresh goat's milk. In the castle, she had to work all day long just to get a few crumbs of bread, but here she did not have to do anything to eat hot and delicious food. When Hakan asked her age, because her mouth was full of food, she could only hold up 2 fingers to him. That's far too young. He immediately cursed the old king's shameless conduct. Not only had he sent people to hunt young dragons, but he had also caused him to lose his only elder brother. Do you feel it's a pity that you couldn't marry the old king as his concubine? She quickly shook her head, but what he did not expect was that not only did she not cry or make a fuss, she even asked him with anticipation what kind of place Tyre really was. The Tyre of rumor is a savage land, but in reality it is not like that at all. You'll understand once you get there. Seeing that she had finished eating, Hakan handed her another piece of bread. Maybe living with him really would be better than staying in that home. The man told her to bear with it for now. Once they returned to the palace, there would be more proper food. But to her, this bread was already the most delicious thing she had ever eaten. That made Hakan unable to help wondering, are noble young ladies really this easy to satisfy? Lucina ate 10 pieces of bread in one go, until her belly was round and full, and she felt utterly satisfied. After she had eaten her fill, Hakan told her to go and rest first. She turned around and wrapped herself up tightly. I think I'd better stay outside. But he said with a smile, there was no need. We are already married, so from now on we will be together every day. But the moment she heard that the Dragon Clan's custom was to have children before holding a wedding, Lucina was so frightened that she burst into tears. Tears poured down as if they cost nothing. Every tear seemed to strike the tip of the man's heart. He could only softly coax her to stop crying. Could it be that marrying me is really worse than becoming the old king's little wife? She quickly explained that she was just a little afraid. He understood in an instant. After all, for a girl who had left her family and been forced to marry into the Dragon Clan, it was only natural to feel afraid and uneasy. So he told her not to worry and even promised that he would do nothing. He also urged her to rest early, while he himself prepared to make do outside for the night. Seeing their king come out of the tent, his subordinate could not help asking why he had left the bride alone. He had even specially set up the tent for the two of them, intending for them to spend their wedding night together. Who would have thought that the king would instead speak up for Lucina and tell him to show her more respect? No one had expected that the king would actually spare those people in the castle for her sake, because whenever he saw her, he would think of the little girl who had saved him 10 years ago. His subordinate also urged the king to try harder and have dragon babies soon to continue the bloodline. The next day, after Lucina woke up, she ran to the riverside to wash her face. As soon as the makeup came off her face, the red blotches turned out to be even worse than before. She hesitated, wondering whether she should heal herself first, but when she thought of sharing a bed, she decided not to heal herself for the time being. That way, when Hakan saw her face, he probably would not be interested. But just then, a sudden sound of footsteps came from behind her. She had originally thought that the person coming was Hakan, but who would have known that a claw would reach straight for her? It turned out to be people sent by her stepmother to capture her and take her back. But she did not want to go back at all. She had finally managed to escape. When they saw the red blotches on Lucina's face clearly, they thought it was some kind of contagious disease. Just as they were about to throw her aside, a sharp arrow suddenly shot toward them. Hakan quickly arrived with his men and surrounded them. That bald man immediately held her hostage with a knife. "Don't come any closer, or this woman will lose her life." Hakan told Lucina to close her eyes. She obediently shut her eyes at once. The next second, that bald man had already been beheaded. She instantly smelled the thick scent of blood and trembled so badly from fright that she did not dare move at all. Only when she heard someone call, "Lucina," did she dare slowly open her eyes. What came into view was the man's face filled with worry. Strangely, she did not feel afraid. Instead, she felt very safe. Hakan lifted her down from the horse and cut the rope tied around her hands. He also thoughtfully draped clothes over her, so she would not catch cold. When his hand touched her burning forehead, he finally realized that Lucina had a fever. He blamed himself for still having arrived too late. "I'm sorry. You must have been terribly frightened." This was the first time she had ever experienced being cared for, and tears instantly welled up in her eyes. "I'm already fine now." Hakan immediately ordered his men to prepare a bonfire and hot water for Lucina first. At that moment, she suddenly thought that perhaps she could live with this man forever. Back in the tent, she found that the red blotches on her face had become even worse, perhaps because her body was sick. Because she had not wanted to share a bed before, she had never treated those red blotches. But when she thought of his thoughtfulness and gentleness toward her in the forest, her heart began to waver little by little, and she even started to feel that being with him might actually be nice. "Don't treat it yet." Suddenly, a voice interrupted her thoughts. When she turned her head, she realized that a tiny little figure was talking to her. "I am Puka, the spirit of the forest. Are you the little dwarf spirit who can make it rain?" Hearing this, the spirit immediately puffed up his cheeks in dissatisfaction, saying that among his kind, he was already considered quite tall. He could sense the healing power within Lucina, so he warned her that she absolutely must not let anyone else discover it. Once word got out, those bad people would surround you like ants. The little spirit stayed by her side every day and found it strange that she spoke so little. But who would have thought that after they became familiar with each other, she gradually began to open up instead. "I once saved a dragon and used my healing power to cure him, but because of Hakan's arrival, the little spirit immediately hid." But when Hakan saw Lucina's face clearly, his eyes widened in shock. Next, everyone thought she had smallpox. She had never treated the red rash on her face, but unexpectedly, this instead made everyone mistakenly think it was a contagious disease, and they all avoided her. Only Hakan still cared about her physical condition. Tehran hurriedly pulled Hakan away. "It can infect people to death. Her symptoms are exactly the same as those of the infected. This is not an illness." Because she was nervous, she explained in a broken and halting way. But the next second, a sharp sword was suddenly pointed at her, warning her not to come any closer. Just when no one believed her, only Hakan stepped forward and ordered Tehran to put down his sword. He told Lucina to continue what she had been saying. Even though she had already gathered the courage to explain, her words were still disjointed and incoherent. This immediately reminded her of her childhood, when every time she tried to speak up and defend herself, her stepmother would beat her viciously. That was why she had developed the habit of stuttering whenever she got nervous. Since no one was willing to listen seriously anyway, she simply gave up trying to explain herself. The crowd shouted angrily that they absolutely could not let her go. If this continued, she would surely lose her life. She had just wanted to use her healing power to cure the rash, but then she remembered the little spirit's warning that she absolutely must not use holy power, or it would surely attract the coveting eyes of those bad people. Just as she was hesitating, "Lucina, don't panic. Speak slowly and calm down first, until I understand." Then he told Tehran that it was not a contagious disease at all. People with contagious diseases would lose their appetite because of vomiting, but Lucina's appetite was incredibly good. She had even eaten 10 loaves of bread in one go. That is true. From her fragmented words, Hakan slowly pieced together the truth. "You mean the old king liked blonde hair, so madam used a sulfur-based hair dye. She dyed your hair blonde. Are right. Because the dye was toxic, it caused you to have an allergic reaction and break out in red rashes. And your scalp and forehead are where the allergy is most severe. If what Lucina had really was that disease, then I had contact with her. So shouldn't I be burned along with her too? Please don't scare us. I believe what she has is not that disease." Hakan was the first person to listen to her so seriously. At that moment, her heart felt burning warm. But just then, the truth suddenly came to light, and the mastermind behind Lucina's kidnapping was finally found out. It turned out that the Baroness wanted to take her daughter back again. Hakan's expression darkened, and he immediately wanted to go teach them a lesson. But unexpectedly, Lucina stopped him. It turned out that she was worried innocent residents would be implicated. Hakan never expected that the first people she would worry about were others, rather than her own family. Her heart suddenly tightened. If he found out she was an illegitimate daughter, he would definitely send her back to the Baron's house. So she asked him not to hurt her family. Hakan felt sorry that she was still sick. He gently picked her up. "If I spare your family, what are you willing to do for me?" Hearing this, she froze instantly. She said that no matter what the request was, she would do it. But looking at those bright eyes, he found himself unable to act improperly, yet he still could not resist teasing her. "Does what you promised me just now still count?" She instantly had a bad feeling. "Then give me a kiss." Hearing such an absurd request, she was dumbfounded on the spot. But words once spoken are like water already spilled. She had no way to shamelessly take them back. Looking at the expectant look in his eyes, her heart began to pound uncontrollably. She shut her eyes. Without caring about anything else, she leaned in directly. Having gotten a taste of sweetness, the man looked extremely pleased. Afterward, he ordered his subordinates that if they dared touch my bride again, I absolutely would not show mercy. After Lucina took the fever medicine to let her rest at ease, Hakan gave her the tent, while he himself went outside alone to stand guard. Watching him hum a tune and walk out in a very good mood, she wondered whether that close contact just now had really made him that happy, even though her face was still covered with ugly red rashes. That whole night, Hakan stayed by her side and took care of her without leaving. So the next day, her fever went down smoothly. Then they immediately set off and continued the journey by carriage. Very soon, they arrived at the rich and beautiful Tyre royal palace. Lucina had just gotten off the carriage. Unexpectedly, the red rashes on her face instantly drew everyone's gossip. Everyone suspected that she was sick. Suddenly, a person with a very unusual appearance bowed to Hakan. It turned out to be a priest. She looked at that person curiously, who knew that the priest's large eyes were also staring at her. "You have actually brought back the breath of the earth." Then he dipped his hand in a little water. Just seeing this ugly face is enough to make the child next door cry. Lucina was frightened silly too. She hurriedly hid behind Hakan. The man affectionately touched her head and explained that this was to purify the bad luck on outsiders. "It is not to harm you, so there is no need to be afraid." Hearing this, she finally let down her guard. She only heard the priest chanting bird-like incantations, "Mali Mali Hong, Mali Mali Hong." The next second, holy water was splashed all over her face. She felt that the rash on her face seemed to have faded a little. The purification ritual ended very quickly. Hakan brought Lucina into the palace. In the main hall, a woman suddenly rushed toward them. She even tightly hugged Hakan, looking like a delicate beauty weeping in his arms. "Those hateful tomb robbers must have already witnessed your majesty's majesty. I am truly proud of you." Lucina felt that the other woman was truly beautiful. Hakan pushed the woman away and exchanged a few polite words. However, she had no intention of letting Lucina off. "Is she a spoil of war? Are the women of Brienne all this ugly?" She had just wanted to retort, but the man suddenly wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "She is the partner I brought back." Hearing this, that woman's expression instantly became very ugly. She even declared on the spot that if Lucina became pregnant with his child, then she would be the queen. "Your Majesty, are you serious? Do you know this woman has sulfur pus on her body?" Unexpectedly, Hakan looked nervous and immediately asked about her physical condition first. It turned out that the dye was fading. Only then did Hakan realize that her original hair was actually silver. But that woman still refused to let the matter go. She said that regarding the duties she had to bear, could Lucina really endure them? She did not understand what duties meant, but the woman mocked Lucina's delicate little body, saying that she simply could not bear them. "But I am different." As the former queen consort, facing a strong and vigorous younger brother-in-law was naturally no problem at all. Hakan called over the little maid, Titi. He told her to devote herself to serving Lucina from now on. Since she had just arrived and was curious about everything here, Titi answered every question she asked. Only then did she understand that the duty Galet spoke of was giving birth, and only after giving birth to 99 dragon babies could one officially become queen. Ever since coming into contact with the holy water, not only had the hair dye begun to fade, but even the red rash on her face had subsided somewhat. So she eagerly wanted the little maid to get some more holy water. Titi hurried off at once to prepare it. Just then, a snow-white little bird flew toward her. She could not help reaching out to touch it, and was surprised to discover that it was actually a talking bird. It was even a chatterbox titmouse. The bird had originally been cute, but in the blink of an eye, it turned into a white-haired little spirit. It turned out to be a titmouse transformed by Puka. The little spirit had worried about Lucina, so he had secretly followed her all the way here. When he saw that she had listened to his advice and had not used her healing power, he finally felt relieved. She confided to the little fellow that compared with living in Qatar, she actually liked this place better. Hakan was the only person in this world who treated her the best. "Aren't you afraid of bearing children for him?" At first, she really was a little afraid, but now she had already overcome the barrier in her heart. Before long, Titi returned quickly. She reported that the king had already agreed to let her use the holy water. "Please come this way with me." At the same time, Hakan's subordinate also brought him news. It turned out that 10 years ago, the dragon slayer had killed their young dragon, and his elder brother in order to protect everyone, had sacrificed his own life without hesitation. Therefore, he had gone to seek revenge and anger. Unexpectedly, during the pursuit, he was struck by a black arrow coated with deadly poison and was on the verge of death. In the end, he was saved by a little black-haired girl. If it had not been for her, he could never have returned alive. At the time, all he noticed was that the other girl's face was not only red and swollen, but her clothes were also ragged, like the daughter of a commoner, yet those shining black eyes still remained unforgettable in his memory. They were far too similar to Lucina's bright eyes, but unfortunately, she had a head of shining blonde hair. Thus, the seed of suspicion was quietly planted in his heart. He immediately ordered his subordinates to investigate Lucina's identity, to find out whether she really was the Baron's biological daughter. As a noble young lady, it was obvious that her relationship with her family was very distant. As soon as he finished giving all the orders, he could not wait to go enjoy a comfortable hot spring bath. Hearing this, his subordinate hesitated, originally wanting to say that Lucina was there too. But after another thought, he quickly swallowed the words back down. He decided to give the king an unprecedented surprise. Meanwhile, under the cleansing of the holy water, the girl shed that jet black blonde hair, revealing her original black and flowing silver hair. She rose to the surface of the water and let out a comfortable breath. Not only had the poor quality hair dye been washed away completely, but even the red rash on her face had disappeared, and her skin had become even more supple and tender than before. Who knew that just at that moment, she heard footsteps. Unexpectedly, the person who came was Hakan. She was so frightened that she immediately covered her mouth. As she watched helplessly, the man slowly walked into the water. Seeing this, she panicked and completely did not know what to do. What should she do? Trapped here, she simply could not get out. She was only taking a bath, yet she had unexpectedly run into the Dragon King, watching him step into the water bit by bit. She was so scared that she hurriedly covered her eyes. Unexpectedly, the man's sharp gaze had already discovered her. He wondered why a woman was hiding here. He mistook her for Turan. So, where did you bring back this little seductress from? And why is she being so proactive? He angrily strode toward that woman. Lucina, meanwhile, was so frightened that her heart leaped into her throat. It's over. This time it really is over. Seeing the other party drawing closer step by step, she sank into the water without hesitation, trying to muddle through. Hakan looked at her comical dog paddle attempt to escape. He grew even angrier. She actually dared ignore his authority. Very soon, he grabbed her in one motion. Unexpectedly, his balance shifted, and both of them fell down at the same time. He had just wanted to teach her a proper lesson. But the instant he saw her face clearly, he froze completely. Who was this beautiful woman? With a head of silver hair and a pair of moonlight-like shimmering eyes that felt strangely familiar? In an instant, he recognized that she was Lucina. Her original hair color was actually silver. After the blonde color faded, she looked far too much like the little girl who had saved him 10 years ago. But very soon, he dismissed the thought again, and when she saw the serious look on Hakan's face, she suddenly knelt down and begged him not to hit her. The girl's trembling appearance would make anyone who saw it feel heartbroken. Hakan knelt on one knee and thoughtfully draped clothes over her. In my palace, who would dare lay a hand on my companion? Only after confirming that he really would not hit her did she finally let out a sigh of relief. Her maid had only requested to use holy water. Unexpectedly, she had run straight over to bathe in it. He really had frightened her badly just now, so he comfortingly patted her head and gently wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes. From now on, you are the mistress of this palace, so do not bow and scrape before me anymore. From this, it was clear that he had already determined that Lucina was not the little girl from 10 years ago. She was obviously very timid. Even at the sight of a dragon, she would be terrified. Most importantly, Lucina did not possess healing powers. Seeing how close the two of them were standing, she shyly tried to move away, but he revealed a meaningful smile. The next second, he pulled her back. It seems you are not finished yet. She hurriedly tried to deny it, without waiting for me. Then, he directly picked her up. She even foolishly asked him where they were going. When she learned it was the bedchamber, she instantly felt that this time, she would not be able to escape disaster. Although she felt a little troubled inside, she did not refuse. However, Hakan still gave her enough time to prepare properly. Titi was genuinely happy for her, but those two troublemakers kept instilling fear in Lucina. Mocking her slight frame, they said she definitely would not be able to endure it. But Titi kept cheering her on, believing that she would surely give birth to dragon hatchlings smoothly. She hurriedly shielded her mistress from these women's poisonous words. But Lucina took those words to heart. Could it be that Hakan would? After being dressed up, Lucina was radiant with beauty, and the man was stunned by the sight of her. He eagerly beckoned for her to come over. Fondly admiring her silver hair, he said that such beautiful hair had actually been hidden all this time by cheap dye. This was the first time she had heard praise from someone else. May I kiss you? The man leaned close and whispered in her ear. She froze for 3 seconds, then frantically shook her little head. Seeing how adorable she looked, He could not help but curl his lips into a smile. Then he placed a gentle kiss on her. Hakan pleaded with her not to run away tonight, but to stay and keep him company. The man lifted her up in his strong arms. Realizing what might happen next, she remembered what those two women had just said, worried that if she were tormented, she might not even keep her life. She trembled all over in fright, shaking like a leaf. Seeing this, the man did not understand for a moment what was wrong with her. Could she be angry? Hakan explained that he was not angry, and seriously asked her whether she wanted to return to her maternal home in Belg. I do not want to go back. I am your companion now. She promised him that she would definitely give birth to dragon hatchlings and become the princess consort of Qatar. In the end, he said that before Lucina was ready, he would never force her. From that day on, she became the laughingstock of the entire empire. Although she heard others talking about her, she did not take it to heart. However, when she accidentally heard rumors about Hakan, she was utterly shocked. So the king really is still going to marry Lady Galit. After all, in Qatar, it is very common for a man to marry his elder brother's widow after his brother dies. From then on, Lucina was always dejected. Just then, Titi came to report that Hakan had returned to the palace. She could not wait to go find him and ask clearly about it. Who knew that on the way, she ran into Galit. Oh, your hair color changed. I almost did not recognize you. After learning that Lucina had been neglected by the king on their wedding night, she became unbearably arrogant. She even mocked her to her face, saying that with such a tiny body, she would not last long at all. She might as well run away now while she still could. But Lucina did not understand what she meant by that. Seeing this, the other woman gleefully told her the truth. The palace of Qatar is a woman's grave. Very few can withstand the fortune of the dragon and survive. Just then, Hakan appeared and interrupted her. Galit warmly went up to greet him, but unexpectedly, the man ignored her completely. The only one in his eyes was the little wife beside her. Lucina, come here. The saintess is to give birth to 9 dragon hatchlings, yet she was not afraid at all. Instead, she looked full of anticipation. Among the dragon clan, no matter who gives birth to dragon hatchlings, she will definitely become the princess consort. But ordinary women simply cannot endure the dragon's fortune. That was why he and Lucina had still not consummated their marriage. On one side was the person he loved most. On the other side was the continuation of the dragon clan's bloodline. Ever since his elder brother sacrificed himself, the burden of protecting the dragon clan's bloodline had fallen upon him. And the clan members were always trying hard to match him with his sister-in-law. But now, he was completely certain that he did not like Galit. Unable to withstand Tehran urging him every day, troubled and upset, he sneaked into Lucina's room late at night carrying wine. She was surprised by Hakan's arrival. After holding back for so many days, at this moment, he had finally seen the wife he had been longing for day and night. And in the end, he could not hold himself back anymore. He cupped her face and looked at it again and again. And the more he looked, the more moved he became, until finally, he could not resist and gave her a passionate French kiss. Unexpectedly, this time, she was no longer afraid and instead responded to him passionately. But at the most crucial moment, she stopped. Have you really prepared yourself to sacrifice for Qatar? Although she still did not quite understand, compared with that, what truly concerned her was another question. Do you think I am cute? Is that even a question? No matter who it is, they would think you are cute. This was the first time she had heard such straightforward words. The atmosphere between the two kept growing warmer. And just when they were about to go further, who knew that her mind was suddenly filled with rumors about Hakan and his sister-in-law? Maybe he and Galit had done these things too. At that thought, she abruptly shoved him away. The man's face instantly filled with confusion as he spoke to ask her. She gathered her courage and voiced the doubt that had long been hidden in her heart. Do you like Galit? They all say that you are going to marry her. The man's expression darkened instantly. Why do you care so much about what others say? But Lucina still refused to stop and insisted on getting to the bottom of it. Did you ever have a crush on Galit? At those words, his brows furrowed so tightly they could almost kill a few mosquitoes. He simply could not understand why, when this was clearly the first time for the two of them, she kept bringing up that woman. Seeing that Hakan did not deny it, the jealousy in her heart instantly surged even more fiercely. You saying I am cute was a lie too, was it not? Compared with me, you really do like her more, do you not? What he hated most was having Galit tied to him by others, not to mention his own wife not trusting him. He even felt that her not wanting to be the princess consort was just an excuse. He was too angry to even bother coaxing her anymore, so he turned and left in anger. She had just wanted to explain, but he had already been driven away by her own words. The king has once again thrown that woman aside and left. I heard she even directly refused him out of fear. When Galit heard this news, her mood instantly improved greatly. It seemed that even the woman personally chosen by the king was nothing special, and he would soon lose interest in her. Before long, he would turn around and throw himself into her arms instead. At that time, the position of princess consort would naturally fall into her hands. For no reason at all, she confidently believed that the one he had always liked was her. It was only because of that damned guilt toward his elder brother that he had kept avoiding her. Then she summoned Lucina over. The royal banquet was about to begin, and poor Lucina did not even have a decent gown. So she kindly gave her a gorgeous dress. But one look was enough to tell that she meant no good. And sure enough, it was actually a glaringly white morning dress. She even mocked Lucina for still refusing to get close to the king. Was it not simply because she missed her family back home? As long as she put on this gift, the king would naturally understand her feelings and let her leave. Her love rival was clearly trying to make her disgrace herself in front of everyone, deliberately sending over a ghastly white dress for her to wear to the banquet. Who would have thought that after the crazy old woman's alterations, she, dressed in a snow-white gauze gown, astonished the entire room. Looking at Lucina in front of the mirror, Titi stamped her feet in anger. If you wear this morning dress to the banquet, His Majesty will definitely misunderstand and think you are blaming him for causing the deaths of your clansmen. Lucina knew very well in her heart that perhaps Hakan would never come to find her again. If it got more serious, he might even send her straight back to her homeland. Just as she could not think of any solution no matter how hard she tried. An old woman carrying a ragged doll barged in. The moment she came through the door, she began complaining that the morning dress on Lucina was outrageously ugly, and brazenly declared that she would personally alter it for her. She would make Lucina look beautiful in it and stun everyone at the banquet. Of course, the premise was that they had to prepare food for her first, but neither of the two knew who she was. Who could have expected that what happened next would leave them dumbfounded? The woman actually threw herself onto the ground and started kicking up a fuss. I am hungry, I want food. Gallet was searching for the missing old madam. When she learned that the woman was making trouble over at Lucina's place, she even specifically instructed them not to report this matter to the king. After the old woman had eaten her fill, she did keep her promise and began to work. She snatched up the scissors and started wildly snipping away. Every time they heard a snip, the mistress and maid trembled along with it. She even vowed confidently that as long as Lucina wore the dress she had altered, the man Lucina liked would definitely be captivated by her. On the other side, Gallet watched everything happening in the room with her own eyes and was gloating endlessly, not believing at all that a crazy old woman could turn such an ugly morning dress into anything impressive. And after Lucina put it on, she wrapped herself up tightly all over. Could this even be called clothing? Titi desperately pulled off the outer layer, only to discover that compared with before, it was already much better. At the very moment the blanket was tugged away, the figure outlined by the black gauze appeared faintly and alluringly. The royal banquet officially began. Hakan had still not seen Lucina enter. Gallet, standing nearby, took the chance to sow discord between them, bluntly saying that Lucina simply did not want to see the king. Hakan was not fooled, but with his beloved wife nowhere to be seen for so long, his mood still became somewhat gloomy, and he could only raise the grape juice in his cup. Seeing that her plan to stop Lucina from attending the banquet had succeeded, she excitedly took off her cloak and personally performed a dance for Hakan. She was inexplicably confident that he would definitely be captivated by her. But Hakan was like an old monk in deep meditation. He did not even spare her a glance and only stared intently at the grape juice in his hand. By the time he was slightly tipsy, he suddenly thought of what his older brother had looked like when he became infatuated with Gallet. That woman had been as dazzling as a red rose, and once someone fell for her, they could never break free until death. When he was young, his brother had always been his idol, and he admired everything his brother possessed and longed to have it all for himself. His power, the throne, even his wife. He had fantasized countless times about standing in that supreme position and possessing everything that belonged to his brother. But until that one time, his brother had sacrificed himself to save him. Before he died, the one he could not let go of most was still Gallet. After learning that his brother had truly loved her, that sense of guilt completely suppressed all of his desires. His romantic rival had wanted her to attend the banquet in morning clothes, but who would have thought that she would appear in a white gown and astonish everyone present? Even the Dragon King, who had abandoned her on their wedding night, was stunned by the sight of her. Lucina was so beautiful that she seemed like a completely different person. Just a moment ago, she had hurried over to attend the banquet, but unexpectedly, she was stopped by the guards at the door. They said that anyone not wearing the clothes bestowed by the former queen was not allowed inside. Titi hurriedly explained that this was in fact the dress bestowed by the queen. It had only been altered slightly. But once the guard heard that she was an unfavored woman and that she had been coldly neglected by the king twice on her wedding night, his attitude instantly became even more arrogant, and he shoved them to the ground without hesitation. That ferocious expression was clearly warning her not to shamelessly try to enter again. Titi worried that if Lucina still could not get into the banquet hall, what if the king misunderstood? Left with no choice, she could only summon the little spirit Puka and ask it to help her. Meanwhile, Hakan had been waiting so long for his wife that the flowers were practically about to wither. Yet he had no idea that his wife was being bullied outside the door. And the one secretly behind the order to stop Lucina was Gallet. As long as that eyesore was absent, she would have a chance to show herself off properly in front of the king. She swayed smugly in a dance that was anything but graceful, making the man spit out the grape juice in his mouth on the spot. At that moment, he could not help but recall the time just after his brother died, when Galit had already been impatient to get close to him. So at the time, he had flatly and decisively rejected her. The person she truly loved was clearly his brother, but she did not care at all who the supreme king was. She would only choose the one on the throne. As long as she could ultimately sit in the position of queen, that was enough for her. At that moment, Hakan was so disgusted that his expression was almost cracking, and he finally saw Galit's true colors clearly. The him of that time had truly been blind. What a headache. But just as he lifted his head, he unexpectedly saw a beautiful fairy walking toward him under the moonlight, her snow-white gauze dress outlining a graceful figure that was faintly visible. Colorful butterflies surrounded her. Was this not his so-called ugly wife? She was so beautiful, like a fairy who had escaped from the moonlight. For a moment, Hakan was so entranced that he lost himself, and even his headache seemed to be cured. And the moment she appeared, she drew the gaze of the entire hall. All of this was thanks to Puka's help, because it had directly pooped on the guard's face. Only then did she get the chance to sneak in. Following the way she had practiced before, she bowed to Hakan. With that poised and graceful manner, where was there any trace of her former timid self? Was this really the Lucina he knew? Galit, however, was nearly driven mad with jealousy in the crowd, and could only vent her anger on some unlucky scapegoat. The man said with a flushed face that his wife had arrived late. TT quickly explained that something had happened on the way, which was why they had been delayed. At that moment, Hakan noticed the bruises on her hand, and immediately strode over to inspect them. The bruising was far too obvious. It pained him terribly. TT seized the chance to complain as well. The guard had said that anyone not wearing the clothes bestowed by the former queen was not allowed inside. Hakan's face darkened as he looked toward Galit. She was so frightened that she visibly jolted. In order to get away before the truth was exposed, she could only immediately drag out a scapegoat. She raised her hand and viciously slapped the guard across the face.
"How dare you slander me?
It was clearly you who stopped the king's woman." Then she turned around and hurriedly explained to Hakan that this was all just a misunderstanding, hoping he would show mercy. But Hakan clearly had no intention of easily letting off anyone who had bullied Lucina. Anyone who dares lay a hand on my mate must be tired of living. The next second, he directly drew the sharp sword in his hand. Only kind-hearted Lucina hurriedly pleaded for mercy on the person's behalf, saying that she was fine now. In this palace, other than me, no one is allowed to bully you. After saying that, he pulled his wife into his arms. Lucina was deeply moved, and her heart also began pounding wildly. At that moment, Galit finally stepped forward hypocritically to plead for mercy. Who would have thought that Hakan would coldly question her on the spot? It was your order not to let Lucina into the banquet hall, wasn't it? After being exposed in public, she could only force out a smile and argue that she would never do such a thing. If that is the case, then we can only ask the king to punish this insolent offender. He first told Lucina to cover her eyes and close her ears. The next second, he sent that person to heaven with a single slash of his sword. Afterward, he carried his wife back to their room and instructed everyone that no one was allowed to disturb their good time. Next, it was finally time for the young couple's private world. Hakan first lowered his voice and apologized to her. The reason he had not come to see her these past few days was because once the two of them met, the subject of giving birth to dragon offspring would inevitably come up, and he was afraid his wife would lose her life because of it. If she learned that bearing children involved such great risk, perhaps she really would leave him. Because of this repeated hesitation and wavering, he had kept dragging it out and never came to explain. And Lucina actually wanted to apologize to him as well. It was just that she was afraid she was clumsy with words, and that instead of explaining well, she would only make him angry again. Hakan seriously promised her that if she was unwilling, he would absolutely never force her. But Lucina said that she wanted to be with him, and also wanted to understand him more deeply before deciding whether he was worth risking her life to bear dragon children for. The moment the man heard this, he was overjoyed. The misunderstanding was finally cleared up, and he gently caressed his wife's cheek. He even praised the clothes she was wearing today as especially beautiful. It was just that in the future, she should still not wear them again. And for a moment she did not understand. "Because I do not want other men to see you too." After saying that, the two of them gazed at each other affectionately. Then he lowered his eyes and gently kissed her. But noticing that his wife was resisting, he immediately became nervous, thinking that she did not like it. That was not really the case, though. "Tonight, I just want to have a good talk with you." He smilingly agreed, and even thought the way his wife waved her little fists was especially adorable. Then the two sat down face to face and began talking about life and ideals. She first poured herself a cup, and only after mustering up her courage did she ask the first question. "How old are you?" "By human standards, about 27. Hakan seriously answered his wife's question. "I also want to know what you like." "Of course you." Why could this man just not answer the question properly? So angry that she poured herself another cup. So he suggested that they simply play a little game. You ask, I answer. If someone does not want to answer, They drink. Who would have thought that his very first question would be what type of man she liked? She instantly froze on the spot. He even seriously gave several examples. One with a good figure, wealthy and noble, gentle and affectionate. And Hakan actually matched every single one of these conditions. So was she supposed to directly admit on the spot that she liked him? In the end, she could only choose to finish that cup of wine. Next, it was finally Lucina's turn to ask a question. She returned the exact same question to him. What kind of woman do you like? She also warned him that he had to answer honestly and was not allowed to be slippery. He said that he had always wanted to find a woman who loved only him rather than his power and status. In this way, the two of them came to understand each other better through this method. The present Lucina, through daily practice, was already able to converse with others very smoothly. Wonderful, Hakan praised her, and also reached out to pat her head. Compared with her former timid appearance, she was practically like a different person. He could not help but wonder whether this kind of personality of hers had been shaped by being suppressed since childhood. Did your family hit you when you were little? After hesitating for a moment, she still chose not to answer. This question is invalid. Now it should be my turn to ask you. Clever as she was, she thus skillfully glossed over it. What do you think of me? I like you, and the more I look at you, the more I like you. I also want to grow old together with you. And every night, I want to fall asleep holding you in my arms. The Dragon King had finally gotten the chance to be alone with his wife after so much waiting. But who would have thought that just at the crucial moment, his wife would suddenly let him down? In the dream, she was holding a big, smooth red apple, and with a wow, she was just about to take a huge bite out of it. But unexpectedly, what she was chewing in her mouth was actually Hakan's 18-piece chest. Realizing what exactly she had done, she was so frightened that she quickly shuffled backward a few steps. This. What exactly is going on? My head hurts so much too. In an instant, she recalled that last night she had been chatting and drinking with Hakan, and he had even confessed his feelings to her. Then Hakan had naturally pulled her into his arms, and just when he wanted to go a little further, she unexpectedly fell asleep in the man's arms and even drooled. He had no choice but to gently cover the sleeping Lucina with a blanket, and as he looked at this little cat who would only actively seek warmth and burrow into his arms, he revealed a helpless yet doting smile. In the end, he only lightly placed a kiss on her forehead, and then they fell asleep embracing each other. Before Hakan had even woken up, she panicked and hurriedly ran away. Titi and Turan had been guarding outside the door the whole time, and seeing that Lucina had not come out for so long, they could not help worrying that something had happened to her. As soon as Turan heard this, he hurriedly cut her off. At that moment, Lucina staggered out, and the two of them immediately rushed over to greet her. Are you alright, Titi? Do not shout so loudly. My head really hurts. Hearing this, she became even more nervous at once and hurriedly asked where exactly it hurt and how it hurt. It's sore and aching. I can barely even walk. That means there were too many times. In her innocence, she thought they were talking about the grape wine. Indeed, she had drunk many times, seemingly a total of 4 times. After hearing this, the two of them instead became even more excited and hugged each other, thinking that after so many times, she was still alive. Lady Lucina is truly amazing. The dragon race is finally saved. We must serve well this lady who will bring prosperity to the dragon race. My lady, please watch your step. Meanwhile, after Galet learned that Lucina had stayed in the king's bedchamber for the entire night, she was so angry that her mouth nearly twisted. And after Hakan woke up, he was in such a good mood that he hummed a song, his whole person radiant and refreshed, obviously the look of a man in love. He even narcissistically admired the perfect 18-pack abs in the mirror and boasted to Turan, Lucina praised me for not only having a good figure, but also being handsome. Oh, right. She was really incredible last night. Not only was she as beautiful as the moon goddess, she was also as valiant as a warrior. As he spoke, he was even so happy that 2 lines of tears streamed down his face. Your Majesty is truly impressive. When he asked where his wife had gone, only then did he learn that Titi had taken her to soak in the hot springs. Why not go too, Your Majesty, and relieve some of last night's fatigue while you're at it? Upon hearing this, his face instantly turned red, yet he still put on a serious expression and said, I am going to finish what I did not finish saying last night. So Hakan came to the bath with a hint of bashfulness, staring at the expanse of pale whiteness before him, yet still unable to see his wife. After looking around, he discovered that his wife had already finished bathing. He could not help feeling a little disappointed in his heart. He had still arrived 1 step too late. Lucina noticed that Hakan had come and immediately revealed a sweet smile, happily fluttering toward the man like a little magpie. He reached out and stroked her head, but found that his wife's hair was still wet, so he took the initiative to offer to dry it for her. Titi also quickly handed over a towel, very tactfully choosing not to be a third wheel for the couple any longer. Then she respectfully withdrew. After Hakan sat down with a thump, he immediately beckoned his wife over. Where should I sit? There is no extra chair at all. Just sit on me. Hearing this, she was clearly stunned for a moment, but still, with a blushing face, obediently walked over. She tightly shut her eyes and plopped herself down. Seeing her like this, The man softly asked whether she did not like it. After hearing the satisfying answer, he gently began drying Lucina's wet hair. He also asked with concern whether she still felt uncomfortable now after drinking too much last night. After soaking in the holy water, I feel much better. Faced with such a shy wife, as delicate as a lotus emerging from water, he could no longer restrain himself and pulled her into his arms, feeling only that even if I cannot see you for a single moment, I will miss you so much I go mad. Every moment, I want to be with you. Hearing this, her heart also began to pound wildly beyond her control. Lucina could clearly feel that Hakan's feelings were genuine. After saying that, the two gazed at each other affectionately once again, and the atmosphere slowly began to heat up. The next second, she took the initiative to kiss him. Me too. I think about you often as well. Hearing his wife's response, he happily curled his lips into a smile. But at the same time, a heavy worry rose in his heart. She had clearly been forcibly brought by him to this unfamiliar place. Yet she had given him her true heart so quickly. Could it be because she had suffered too much in the past? His heart ached for Lucina's childhood experiences. So he also decided that tonight, he would tell her the truth. Giving birth to a dragon hatchling might cost her life. Hakan saw that Titi had always been loyal and dutiful, and had taken excellent care of Lucina, so he rewarded her with a lump of gold. Then he announced to everyone that tonight he would have dinner with Lucina in the bedchamber, and that it would be the same every day from now on. He tightly held his wife's hand. Holding her hand, he placed a kiss on the back of it.
See you tonight.
After returning to the palace, Titi was so happy holding the rewarded golden egg that she practically felt like flying. She could finally pay her younger siblings tuition. With last night's experience, she believed Lucina would definitely do very well tonight, so she worked even harder to dress her up beautifully. At that moment, a small white bird flew in through the window. It turned out to be the spirit Puka. To thank it for its help at the banquet, Lucina even gave it a bag of peanut shells to eat. Thus, the girl and the bird began chatting without any barrier at all. Meanwhile, when Galit learned that Lucina would be with Hakan again tonight, she was furious to the point of nearly going mad and began plotting what method she could use to stop her. So, she summoned a man. By dinner time, Hakan was still worrying about how exactly he should confess the truth to his wife later. Who would have thought that at that moment, Lucina made a dazzling entrance dressed in black. She was so beautiful that Hakan stared blankly for a moment. He quickly called for his wife to come over and sit down to eat. I wonder whether these dishes suit your taste. Unexpectedly, without saying a word, she directly hugged him. She even gave his lips a hard peck. I missed you, Hakan. The man was clearly a little surprised by such a direct Lucina. Didn't we just meet this morning? But now it's already evening. Faced with her overflowing affection, Hakan was naturally delighted. So he also planned to tell her about the curse that she would die if she gave birth to a dragon hatchling. But just as he was about to speak, a servant suddenly burst in. Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. It turned out that Hakan's mother had suddenly fallen ill and was clinging tightly to the former king's body, refusing to let go. Left with no choice, he could only rush over immediately. Before leaving, he also told Lucina to rest first and said they would talk about this another time. And in fact, all of this was Galit's doing behind the scenes. Even the curse that one would die after becoming pregnant with a dragon hatchling was caused by her alone. They had originally been a pair of siblings depending on each other in the slums. The older sister desperately worked to support her younger brother's education. But in order to repay his sister's kindness, the younger brother actually used the knowledge he had learned to harm others. And because of that, the older sister was able to successfully become queen. However, unfortunately, both her husband and son died in the war, and now she had set her sights on Hakan, who had already become the new king. She absolutely could not allow Lucina to give birth to a dragon hatchling. But her younger brother no longer wanted to keep helping his sister harm people, and even urged her to stop in time and turn back before it was too late. Who knew that what he got in return was a kick and a blow to the head. My dear brother, who is it that worked desperately to raise you? If not for me, you would have died long ago. And it was precisely because he had kept helping his sister harm people that every time he cast a curse, the backlash would fall on himself. And over time, he developed a heart condition. But Galit felt that this was nothing more than an excuse for shirking and paid it no mind at all. All she wanted was for him to get rid of Lucina quickly. But just after casting the spell, he suddenly felt intense pain coming from his heart. In the end, he could no longer endure it and fainted on the spot. On the way back to the palace, Lucina happened to come across Jirai collapsed unconscious on the ground. She discovered that his heart had already stopped beating, and if he was not treated immediately, he would lose his life. The tricky part was that her healing power absolutely could not be known by others. There was no time to worry about that now. Saving him was what mattered. After successfully sending Titi away, only then did she use her hidden healing power. At this moment, however, he had fallen into a nightmare. In order to protect his sister, all the evil deeds he had committed were deeply sinful, but he had done it only because he did not want to be abandoned by his sister. Yet in the end, all responsibility could only be borne by himself. Suddenly, a gentle force eased the intense pain in his heart, like a sacred ray of moonlight shining into his heart. When he opened his eyes again, what came into view was a girl with black and white hair. He could not believe that he was actually still alive. Just moments ago, he had clearly felt his heart stop beating and death closing in. He turned to look at the girl beside him. "Was it you who saved me?" She lied and said she had merely stayed by his side. Suspicion immediately arose in his heart. Even the miraculous medicine his sister had given him before had failed to cure him, so that could only mean… The next second, he suddenly grabbed Lucina's hand tightly. "Do you possess healing power? I once heard that Brienne's holy emperor possesses divine power that can bring the dead back to life. You are using that kind of ability too, aren't you?" Unexpectedly, he had guessed everything correctly. Lucina immediately panicked and hurriedly broke free from his grip. She insisted that she had only stayed by his side, nothing more. But he was already certain that what she had used just now was healing power. If he could obtain this human, then in the future, he would no longer have to suffer the torment of heart pain. So he began to coax Lucina, wanting to run away with her and live a happy life together. But she said that she wanted to stay by Hakon's side and become queen. But what is so good about being queen? Once you lose your life, as long as you become pregnant with a dragon hatchling, your whole body will be scorched by blazing flames. Do you know how painful that kind of death is? Seeing the girl's face full of shock, he suddenly discovered something interesting. Hakon actually lied to you. He made a human girl his mate. Don't you think that's strange? Since death comes either way, if you fail to successfully give birth to a dragon hatchling, then it wouldn't matter even if you died. He is only using you to save Tyr's woman. But Lucina did not believe his one-sided words, and decided to personally find Hakon and ask him clearly. Meanwhile, his mother suddenly fell ill, picked up a sharp stone, and viciously stabbed it into his heart. "You disaster. Not only did you kill your brother, you even stole his throne." Even after his mother was forcibly dragged away, those unbearable insults still rang in his ears, and he had always believed that his mother had gone mad because she could not bear the blow of his brother's death. But he had never expected that this episode had actually been manipulated by Gallet behind the scenes. He refused the attendance treatment, feeling depressed and only wanting to be alone. At that moment, Lucina found him and had just wanted to ask, when she saw the wound on his body, "How did you get hurt? Why you need to treat the wound first?" Because she was so nervous, even her speech became stammering. But right now, he had absolutely no mood to talk with her. "The wound is still bleeding. It has to be treated first." As she said that, she reached out and grabbed him, but Hakon seized her hand in return. "Go back first. I don't have time to talk to you right now." After saying that, he turned around and strode away. Lucina felt down and squatted on the steps. She sensed that something was very wrong with Hakon's state today, yet she did not know what exactly had happened. Just then, a man's voice suddenly came from ahead. "Have you considered my proposal? Judging from how you look, your conversation seems not to have gone very smoothly." Hearing that, she buried her head in the crook of her arms. "Mind your own business." After being treated coldly, not only did he not leave, he instead shamelessly sat down beside her. "Even though you possess such powerful healing power, you are still willing to bear children for that man who is using you." She instantly became angry and scolded him, telling him not to speak ill of Hakon. "You don't understand him at all. Hakon was the first person to seriously listen to me, and he even said I was cute. What you want, I can also do for you." As he spoke, he slowly moved closer to her. A blush rose on his face, and he even spoke cheesy words. "Lucina, you are beautiful and adorable. From the moment you saved me, you became the holy maiden who saved me. I will protect you forever. Be with me." But when the same kind of words entered her ears, they did not bring the same heartbeat she felt when facing Hakon. She quickly stood up and widened the distance between herself and Jirai. Hakon was still bleeding now, and she truly could not stop worrying, so she wanted to go see how he was doing. Meanwhile, that man was already drunk out of his mind, simply because of what had happened with his mother stabbing him. Everyone unanimously insisted that she should be sent to Fire Valley for execution. But she was his most beloved mother. How could he possibly bear to do that? No matter what others said, he could not take any of it in. He even raised his sword and pointed it at Turan. "If you don't get out, I'll cut you down." When Lucina arrived, she saw Hakon collapsed on the ground, unconscious. His forehead was burning hot, at least 90 degrees. She tenderly wiped away the tears at the corners of the man's eyes. Even if he really was using her, she still did not want to see him hurt and bleeding again. In order to save her husband, this holy maiden no longer continued to play dumb. And this was also the first time that she used her long hidden healing power to treat this man's wounds. Hakon, who had fallen unconscious, dreamed of when he had been severely injured and fallen into the forest 10 years ago. No matter how hard he struggled with all his strength, he still could not stand up. Fortunately, a little girl appeared and saved him. After Hakon woke up, he discovered that the wound on his chest had somehow completely healed. He was incomparably shocked. At this moment, Turan arrived with the priest, surprised to find that the king's wounds had already completely healed. Filled with confusion, He questioned everyone. Only then did he learn that the priest had not treated him at all last night, and Turan had not used holy water to wipe his wounds either. A wound caused by a dark magic arrow could not possibly heal within half a day, so what exactly was going on? Just as everyone was utterly baffled, Hakan turned to the guard beside him and asked, "Who else came to her bedchamber last night?" "Lady Lucina came last night." Then what he had seen last night was not a dream. If it really was Lucina who had healed him, then wouldn't she be the very girl who had saved him 10 years ago? He could not understand why she had deliberately hidden it. Was she afraid of getting into trouble? He had never expected that the lifesaver he had been searching for all this time was actually right before his eyes. He could no longer suppress the excitement in his heart, and before he knew it, he had already arrived at the entrance to her palace. But the voices coming from inside made him stop in his tracks. It was actually his mother's voice. It turned out that Titi had borrowed a book recording the dragon clan from the priest. For Lucina, who would become queen in the future, this was immensely beneficial. If this was a book about the dragon clan, perhaps she could find something in it about the curse that said giving birth to a dragon hatchling would lead to death. But after flipping through only a few pages, she realized she was illiterate and could not recognize a single word. So she had no choice but to ask Titi beside her for help. These are ancient characters used by the dragon clan. I can't read them either. Just when the two of them were at a complete loss, an old woman pushed open the door and walked in. "This is a book I wrote." Lucina's eyes were full of admiration. She had not expected this old woman to be so amazing. "Watch carefully, I'll teach you. Didn't I tell you? Soon you'll be able to read just like your brother." Could it be that he was dreaming? How could his mother be smiling so kindly and gently calling her by her nickname? "My name is Lucina, not Boyi. Why are you looking for someone named Boyi?" Just then, Hakan suddenly barged in and interrupted them. He was puzzled as to why his imprisoned mother was here. Lucina explained to him that she was learning to read. She was the one who had helped her at the banquet last time. However, she seemed to have been looking for someone all along. After hearing Hakan's name, the old woman seemed to suddenly regain clarity. "That's right, Hakan. I've been looking for you all this time. How could I ever hurt you?" As she spoke, tears welled in her eyes, and she lowered her head guiltily. But in the next second, her eyes gradually lost awareness. Meanwhile, Galit received the news that the old woman was now with the king. The old woman is with the king now, which makes this the best chance to act. So she threatened her younger brother Jirai to take action, but he was no longer willing to cast a dark curse on Adal. She has already lost her mind. If this continues, she may never regain consciousness again. But she just happens to be the one who opposes Hakan remarrying me. I will never let her off so easily. After saying that, Galit viciously kicked him. "If you don't want to watch her die immediately, then do as I say." Driven into a corner with no way out, he tremblingly dripped a drop of black blood onto it. The dark curse activated instantly. The dark curse was triggered in an instant, and Adal looked at Lucina before her. Her eyes completely lost focus, and she fell into an illusion. All she saw was a woman with black and white hair, drawing a bow to harm her son. She instantly went mad and charged at Lucina. "Go die." His wife's face was disfigured, and the one who had done it was actually his own mother. Hakan completely broke down. He could tolerate his mother hurting him, but he alone could never tolerate her harming Lucina in the slightest. No one had expected that the old woman, who had been perfectly fine just a moment ago, would mistake Lucina for that black-haired witch. She imagined that the other woman was drawing a bow to shoot her son. To protect her son, she raised her feathered spike and desperately charged forward. At the critical moment, fortunately Hakan stopped her in time from behind. He hurriedly caught his collapsing wife, his face full of worry, but Lucina's cheek was still scratched. Seeing this scene, the man's heart ached to the extreme. "The person who hurt my son, I'll tear you apart for revenge." His mother still would not stop and kept cursing nonstop. His rage also surged completely at that moment. "Isn't hurting me alone enough?" Even after she had stabbed him yesterday, he had still wanted to continue being her son, but now she would not even spare the person he loved most. Hakan's reason finally snapped completely. "Guards, take the sinner to the Valley of Fire. For the crime of attacking your king, and for the crime of harming the king's mate, punish both severely." This was the first time Lucina had seen Hakan cry from pain after being hurt. He forcibly collected his emotions and then turned to Titi. "Call the priest to treat Lucina and promise her this. I guarantee that this will never happen again." Afterward, Hakan issued a gag order. "From this day forward, seal away all records of the sinner Adal, and forbid anyone from speaking of her. Violators will be severely punished without exception." So when Jirai woke up after fainting from casting the spell, he heard the maids whispering and immediately realized that something major had happened in the palace. So he wanted to ask them what exactly had happened while he was unconscious, but they only said that the king had already issued a gag order, and then hurried away in fear. This left him completely confused. Just then, a pair of pitch-black hands suddenly grabbed the hem of his clothes. "I have something to ask you." To his surprise, it was Lucina. So the two of them went to a secluded and deserted corner. "Do you know who the woman was that Hakan ordered sent to the Valley of Fire?" She had told Titi to gather information, but because of the gag order, nothing had been found. And at first, he had not thought deeply about it at all. The Valley of Fire? What kind of place is that? In the next second, he suddenly remembered something. His emotions instantly surged. Could it be that Hakan had sent Lady Adal to the Valley of Fire? She did not know who Adal was. She had only heard that someone had been sent there. Hearing this, he felt as if struck by lightning because of what he himself had done. Adal had actually been sentenced to death by fire. Unease and guilt instantly filled his heart. He had just wanted to tell Lucina about it, when unexpectedly, he was interrupted by the man who suddenly appeared. "What are you doing to my mate?" Seeing this scene, his gloomy face actually turned even paler with anger. All three of them were startled, and Jirai stammered. But the other party strode forward, grabbed his collar, and lifted him up like a chick. "How dare you lay hands on my mate? I think you've grown tired of living. If you dare fill her head with nonsense." Lucina hurried forward and stopped the furious man. "It's not what you think." She looked at the person beside her who had nearly lost his life and told him to leave first because she wanted to talk with Hakan. After he respectfully withdrew, she opened her mouth to press him on what exactly he had meant by the nonsense he had just said. "The truth is, it means that whoever mates with the dragon will die. In order to protect Heir's woman, he snatched me here as a substitute to die in her place. Whoever mates with a dragon will die." So the Dragon King had never dared to tell his wife because he was afraid that she would really leave him. But in the end, Lucina still learned this secret and mistakenly believed that Hakan had chosen to abduct her as a substitute in order to protect Heir's woman. He desperately explained to Lucina that he had never intended to hide it. But when he saw his wife crying so pitifully, his voice suddenly stopped at that very moment. She sobbed while wiping away her tears and grievance, and that appearance made his heart ache even more. This was the first time he had seen his wife cry so heartbreakingly, and he was completely at a loss, not knowing how to comfort her at all. Lucina avoided the large hand he reached out.
"I don't want to talk to you right now."
After saying that, she ran out crying, and he did not even have the courage to chase after her and could only watch helplessly as she went farther and farther away. He had long grown used to women running away from his side, but her rejection alone made his chest hurt so badly he could hardly breathe. Lucina was the first person to show him a radiant smile, and also the first person willing to approach him and bring him warmth. Only at this moment did he understand that he had already fallen hopelessly in love with her. Lucina ran out crying all the way, while Jirai had been waiting outside for her the whole time. He stated directly that the Lady Adal who had been sent to the Valley of Fire was Hakan's biological mother. Although her life was not in immediate danger for now, with her frail and aged body, she would not be able to hold on for long at all. He had already learned how to enter the Valley of Fire and planned to join forces with Lucina to rescue Adal. He handed her a key, saying that when the time came, he would cast a spell on the guards at the entrance. Once the guards had fallen asleep, she only needed to sneak in cleverly. Outside the Valley of Fire, Lucina furtively peeked around, and the little sprite who had followed her learned that she was about to break into the prison to save someone. "Are you crazy? What if you run into danger? You're actually risking your life for an old woman you've only met a few times." But the reason she was doing this was actually for Hakan. Although she resented him for keeping things from her, she still could not bear to watch him sink into remorse. She took out a bag of honey-glazed peanuts, and only then did she coax the little sprite into agreeing to help. Meanwhile, Jirai began casting his spell. As the guards fell into a deep sleep, she and the little sprite successfully slipped inside. But the deeper they went, the more unbearably hot it became. A temperature of 90 degrees quickly left the girl and the bird drenched in sweat. Suddenly, the monster ahead startled them badly. However, the monster had already been hypnotized into sleep by Jirai's spell. They carefully slipped past the gatekeeper. Very soon, they arrived at the center of the Valley of Fire. Hakan's mother was imprisoned in a cage, and beneath her was rolling, boiling lava. She took out the key and opened the birdcage like prison. Together with the little sprite, she successfully rescued the old woman. Not only was her forehead burning with a fever of 90 degrees, but her body had already lost consciousness as well. There was not the slightest response even when she called out to her. The little sprite used holy water to cool her down, while Lucina used her healing power to treat her. But even when her energy was nearly exhausted, the old woman still did not wake up. She guessed that it might be because of her advanced age. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, the gatekeeper would actually wake up? Jirai had once instructed them that if the gatekeeper woke up midway, it would mean that he had lost consciousness from heartache. You can blind its eyes with salt. Just then, the monster charged fiercely toward them. Puka quickly cast magic, successfully binding all 4 of its limbs with vines. It urged Lucina to hurry, saying it could not hold on much longer. But before she even had time to take out the salt, the monster had already quickly broken free from the vines. Its enormous palms suddenly swung over, sending them flying like kites. Because she had exhausted her healing power earlier, she immediately felt dizzy. Who would have thought that at that moment, a huge green claw suddenly lunged at her. She had thought that this time, she was truly going to die there. Fortunately, at the critical moment, that man descended like a hero. In order to save his wife, he defeated the monster by his own strength alone. Gatekeeper, return to your post. Hearing the king's command, the ferocious monster actually turned around obediently and retreated. The man turned his head and scolded Lucina for coming to such a dangerous place, just to save someone. If anything had happened to your mother, you would definitely regret it. She suddenly felt her consciousness blur, and in the next second, she collapsed. Hakan hurriedly caught his unconscious wife. At that moment, his mother woke up, but mistook him for his older brother. Raikai, I've been waiting for you. Take boy away quickly. As she spoke, she handed him the red doll. It's too hot here. Take your younger brother away quickly. He froze on the spot. His mother clearly did not love him, so why was she still so worried about his safety? The next second, the doll was stuffed into his arms. He stared blankly at the thing in his hands, recalling scenes from his childhood. This is a gift from mom to you. How about giving him a name? Let's call him Boy. This name was chosen when you were still in mom's belly. Raikai, what are you still hesitating for? At that moment, his mother's voice interrupted his memories. Mom will find a way to get out on her own. Hurry and leave with your mate and your younger brother. If anything happens to Boy, mom won't want to live either. No matter what happens, you must protect your younger brother first. At this moment, he finally understood that his mother had loved him all along. It turned out that his older brother had risked his life to protect him in order to keep his promise to their mother. Guilt instantly flooded his heart, and tears of regret slid down his cheeks. When she saw the tears on her son's face, she finally came to her senses as well. She finally recognized that the person before her was Hakan. I'm sorry, child. Mom is always muddle-headed, and I actually failed to recognize my own son. After clearing up the misunderstanding that had lasted for many years, mother and son held each other tightly, feeling the belated warmth of this moment. Meanwhile, Galit received news that Adal had come out of Fire Valley alive. Moreover, she had resolved her misunderstanding with the king and would remain in the palace in the future to live out her old age. With her plan having failed, she was so furious, she nearly suffered internal injuries. Lucina's body recovered quickly, and Hakan also sincerely thanked her. If you hadn't saved mother, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. Even now, every time he thought about it, his hand still could not stop trembling. She gently held the man's hand in a comforting manner. She softly said a few words to comfort him. He held his wife tightly and told her not to do anything so dangerous again in the future. If I lose you, I too will fall into the abyss. Only after going through this did she finally understand. Although I really hate that you kept it from me, I still don't want to see you sad. Even if I have to risk my life, I only want you to be safe and sound. Hearing such a sincere confession from his wife, the man was deeply moved, but when he heard her say that she wanted to bear monkey babies for him, he was completely stunned. What did you say? Do you know what that means? Of course, she understood that during childbirth, a woman could face mortal danger at any moment. Adal and Galit had both safely given birth to dragon heirs, and she, who possessed healing power, might perhaps find it easier to do than others. This time, she had already made up her mind that no matter what, she would give birth to a dragon heir and become queen. Even though Hakan tried hard to dissuade her, she still pushed the man down in one swift move. Then she pounced on him directly, and then she took the initiative to seal his lips. She threw herself on top of the dragon king. So it turned out she wanted to give birth to 99 dragon babies. Her hand had only just touched him when he was already blushing bright red in fright. Lucina was very satisfied with this. The next step was his belt. She only gave it a light tug, and he was so startled that he sprang up from the spot. Wait a second. She pounced on him again, and Hakan, immersed in this sweet atmosphere, came close to completely losing his reason. He desperately held himself back, then pushed his wife away. We can't take such a risk. You might die. Lucina told him that she was already prepared, but Hakan was not ready yet. It was only because when he saw her in danger that time in Fire Valley, the fear in his heart was beyond description. I don't even dare think about it. I would go crazy. Please, you must cherish your own life. She hesitated, wondering whether to tell Hakan that she possessed healing power, but after weighing it all, she still could not bring herself to say it. But you all need to protect the dragon. I don't want any other woman besides me to bear your child. Hakan promised that from now on, she would be the only one. But what worried him more now was her physical condition. After all, she had already fainted several times before. Judging only from the fact that she fainted every time she used a large amount of healing power, perhaps her physical condition really was not that good. After the Oni-faced priest examined her, Lucina was found to be merely malnourished and not suffering from any serious illness. As long as she got enough nutrition from now on, she would gradually recover. After the priest left, Hakan asked her whether her childhood had been unhappy. After hesitating for a moment, she finally told him about her background. The Baroness was not her biological mother. She was only an illegitimate daughter, but because she was afraid that after learning the truth, he would cancel their marriage, so she had kept lying all along. After hearing this, The man's eyes were full of heartache. He gently picked up his wife and solemnly promised that as long as you do not push me away, I will never leave you. Then he apologized to her again. Before, I was afraid you would leave me after learning that dragonfolk childbirth carries risks. That is why I kept silent all this time. Starting today, I will never hide anything from you again. The young couple finally confessed the secrets each had hidden deep in their hearts. With their emotions out of control, they clung tightly to each other once more. He had always misunderstood that his mother did not love him. It was all thanks to Lucina that they were finally able to clear up the misunderstanding of so many years. Put me down first. We can talk slowly too. But the man insisted on carrying his wife. Your body is weak. You must not overexert yourself. Meanwhile, Hakon's mother woke up, recalling the phantom images that had appeared in her mind before. She finally realized that she had been controlled by dark sorcery all along. Go call Hakon here at once. I have something very important to tell him. After learning that his mother had awakened, the two of them immediately rushed to the other palace. Unexpectedly, his mother soon fell into a deep sleep again. In the end, they were still one step too late because Gallet had arrived before them. In her hand, she was still holding the empty bottle from the medicine that had just been finished. She told Hakon that if Adal wanted to recover completely, she would still need some time, so she wanted to bring her to the queen's palace. It could also count as doing her filial duty as a daughter-in-law. Lucina took the initiative to speak up, saying that she also wanted to take care of Adal personally. Who would have thought that Gallet immediately rebuked her, saying that taking care of the great queen was Tyre tradition. And you still have no status now. You do not even understand the most basic rules. Hakon wrapped an arm around his wife's shoulders. He looked at Gallet coldly. That love rival actually dared bully the saintess in public. Who knew that in the next second, Hakon would protect his wife so domineeringly. He pulled his wife into his arms with heartache. Once Lucina is carrying my child, she will be Tyre's queen, so you should treat her with proper respect from now on. She could only suppress her emotions and force out a slight smile. Of course, turning his head, the man then whispered gently to Lucina again. She was so jealous she was nearly driven mad, yet she no longer dared act rashly. Even on the way back, Hakon kept holding her and refused to let go. It made her so shy that she did not dare raise her head, only because in his eyes, his wife was physically weak and should not have to walk with effort. Fortunately, at that moment a subordinate came to report that the ministers were all waiting for him for a meeting. Only then did he put her down. He parted from her reluctantly. Who would have thought that just after Hakon left, Jirai took the opportunity to come over. The two sat side by side on the steps, chatting casually. Each of them asked after the other's physical condition. Only then did he learn that Lucina had fainted last time because she had used a large amount of healing power. This was also the first time he had heard that holy power could actually have side effects. So he told her to continue keeping the secret and absolutely not let anyone know that she possessed healing power. Otherwise, those people would surely swarm toward you. If I tell Hakon, he would protect me too, right? He would certainly cherish you greatly. Possessing healing power meant that the possibility of safely giving birth to a dragon heir was greater, as long as she became queen. And he, in turn, would be forced by his older sister to go harm others. So her healing power absolutely could not be discovered by others, especially Hakon. Do not believe his sweet words. If he really had to choose one of the two, he would definitely choose Tyre. But Lucina did not believe he was that kind of person. He might even take you to the battlefield. After all, healing power is extremely valuable on the battlefield. But unexpectedly, she was willing to go with Hakon. He could not understand why she liked that man so much. If the first person Lucina had met had been him, would she also have fallen in love with him? The girl asked him why he had shown that kind of expression just now. Only then did he realize how absurd his thoughts had been. In his fluster, he could only quickly change the subject. Hakon said that I should learn the common language, but I'm illiterate. I'm afraid that if others find out, they will laugh at me for being uneducated. So I want to find a teacher to teach me. This was simply a once-in-a-lifetime chance to get close to her, so he volunteered. Why not let me teach you? And after TT learned the news, she was also very happy. Jirai had been proficient in many languages since childhood. She envied Lucina for being able to study with him. Lucina noticed TT's longing, so she invited her to join as well. That would be wonderful. As soon as Jirai returned to the other palace, he saw his sister bring Adal back. The great queen, of course, should be cared for by the former queen. This is palace etiquette. How is it that after all these 10 years, sister suddenly remembered to fulfill her filial duty as a daughter-in-law? Because Adal had regained her senses. She was going to tell Hakon that there was a dark sorcerer in the palace. Fortunately, she stopped her in time. Who would have thought that that old woman had actually developed antibodies in her body? But she had prepared a new medicine, a sedative specifically for elderly people with dementia. As long as she took it, she would fall into sleep and have no way to think deeply at all. His heart instantly sank to the bottom. The dark sorcery originally used on Adal was now intended to be switched to another target. Hearing this, he was so frightened that his whole body jolted. Switch it? Of course, to that brat Lucina. His wife was actually sitting that close to another man. On the spot, he looked as though he had caught someone cheating. In an instant, he only felt as though he had been cuckolded. What exactly were you doing behind my back? Jirai teaches Lucina and TT at the same time. Unexpectedly, TT is actually the one learning the fastest. As for Lucina, she can only answer 1 out of 10 questions correctly. After all, this is her first time learning to read, and she has already improved very quickly, so TT hurriedly comforted her when she felt down. He has been proficient in many languages since childhood, and even confidently promised that Lucina would learn the common language in 2 months. Who would have thought that at this moment, something got into her eye, and she could not open it no matter what? Noticing this, he quickly got up to check on her. "Don't rub it, you'll hurt your eye." As he spoke, he grabbed the hand she was using to rub her eye and leaned in to look at what was in it. Unexpectedly, this scene was seen by the man behind them. He thought they were doing something inappropriate. It was like a bolt from the blue, and he was so angry that his originally dark face turned pale. "What exactly are you doing?" Seeing Hakan storming toward them aggressively, both of them were so frightened that they did not know what to do. In an instant, she remembered the scene last time when Hakan held her. I got something in my eye." She was so nervous that her explanation came out incoherently. Fortunately, TT acted as a translator beside them and conveyed the real meaning to Hakan. This ridiculous scene left both men stunned. Her small dark hand gently tugged at the corner of his clothes. She threw herself into his arms and said that the person she had always liked was him, so he should not misunderstand her relationship with others. Hearing such a sincere confession from his wife, the gloom in his heart instantly vanished. He affectionately stroked her hair. "If there is something you do not know, you can just learn it, and you even found a smart teacher to teach you, which is really great." Then he turned and asked Jirai whether he could teach both of them well. And he promised that, in 1 month at the latest, the two of them would learn the common language. "Although you are weak and not very useful, and your personality is still sinister and cunning, but in the palace, when it comes to being extremely intelligent, no one can surpass you, so I'll leave Lucina's studies to you." Hearing the king's words, which sounded both like praise and an insult, truly made him uneasy. Even when the other party retaliatorily gripped his hand tightly, he did not dare resist. "If you dare touch Lucina again, you are dead." Hearing Hakan's fierce warning, he was so scared that cold sweat poured down. But when Hakan turned to face his wife, he instantly changed his expression again, as if the two of them had a very good relationship. In front of the other men, he directly picked her up in his arms. He proudly walked past Jirai. After returning to the palace, Hakan told her the results of the physical examination. Although she was malnourished, strangely, her recovery ability was several times better than that of an ordinary person. The reason she has been able to hold on until now is thanks to her healing power. "The priest has already prepared medicine for you to restore your energy. In exactly 2 months, it will be my rutting period. Now, I have also started taking medicine." She was curious about what the rutting period actually was. It turned out that it was the best period for the dragon clan to reproduce, and at that time their inner fire would become especially strong. That was why medicine was needed for adjustment, and only then would they consider intimacy. After saying that, he stood up and was just about to leave, when unexpectedly, a small hand gently tugged at him. "Abstinence. To what extent does it have to be? Is it not okay to simply sleep together?" He blushed, not knowing how to answer for a moment. Lucina acted coquettishly, saying that she did not want to sleep alone for 2 months. She wanted Hakan to stay with her, and in the end, he really could not do anything against his wife and could only agree. But it did not take long for him to regret this decision. His wife had clearly still been smiling at him, yet the next second, she was embracing another man. He was so angry that he was almost driven mad. As it turned out, all of this was because Jirai had secretly cast a dark curse on Hakan behind the scenes. The purpose was to break apart this loving couple. Under the influence of the illusion, he would gradually begin to resent Lucina without realizing it. As time passed, the feelings between the two would naturally break apart, and the despairing woman would definitely throw herself into his arms. When Hakan saw his wife together with Jirai, he immediately stormed up to her in anger. It was Lucina's voice that brought his senses back. He froze completely, unable to believe what he had just done. She looked at him full of worry and asked what was wrong. "And no, nothing. I thought you had accidentally fallen into the water, so I hurried over." After saying that, he avoided her worried gaze. She had originally wanted to tell Hakan that she possessed healing power, but unexpectedly, he interrupted her, saying that he was too tired today. "Let's talk about it another time." He began to suspect that his emotional changes were far too abnormal. As long as he saw Lucina, he wanted to get angry, and he would always see those terrible scenes as if they were real. During class the next day, Lucina remained absent-minded the entire time, her thoughts far away. After Jirai noticed, he first sent TT away to the library to get a book, then carefully asked her what had happened between her and Hakan. During this period, she had always kept her feelings bottled up inside, and being suddenly cared for like this by someone, her eyes instantly turned red, and tears immediately began to fall uncontrollably. "Did he lose his temper with you?" Jirai began to go on, speaking badly about Hakan. After hearing this, Lucina refuted him like an angry little bird. How could he possibly hit me? It is just that his writing period is coming soon, so he's been in a bad mood lately, that's all. Jirai then suggested that it would be best for them not to meet for the time being. Then what should I do if I miss him? You can write letters, right? Of course. She immediately picked up a pen and seriously wrote her first letter on the paper. After finishing it, she even handed it to Jirai for inspection. After reading it, the man looked stunned. What on earth was this writing? But verbally, he still said that it was very well written and that she should send it just like that. Hearing this, she immediately looked excited. Hakan always felt that something had been very wrong with him lately, so he called for a priest to examine him, but the result was only the effect of his approaching writing period. The deeper the feelings with the person you like, the stronger the reaction would be. But this result did not truly put his mind at ease. After the priest left, a maid walked in holding the letter Lucina had written. He did not expect it to be a letter from his wife to him, and just as he was about to open it, the maid reminded him that the candle had gone out and asked whether she should light it again for him. After getting permission, she lit that candle that had been cursed with dark magic. Who would have thought that as soon as he opened the letter, he froze completely. The handwriting was as ugly as chicken scratch, and although there were a great many misspelled words, every stroke was filled with how much she missed him. As he read, the corners of his mouth could not help but rise all the way to his ears. As expected of Tyre's number 1 noble lady, the happiness of being in love almost filled his heart, and still unsatisfied, he wanted to keep reading. Thinking of me every night, let me see what exactly you are thinking about. As soon as the candle was lit, the dark curse immediately caused him to have hallucinations. I am thinking about running away, hand in hand with the person I love most. All those words I once said about loving you were fake. I hate you. I resent you. And even your mother would never truly love a man like you. Those vicious words stabbed fiercely into his heart. He roared in terror. Stop talking, shut up. And when the guards outside the door heard the commotion, they all rushed in to check what was happening. By the time Hakan regained his senses, he discovered that the letter had somehow already been torn into pieces. He could not even remember why he had suddenly gotten angry just now. Very soon, this matter spread throughout the palace. The king got angry and tore up Lucina's letter. Could it be that Lord Jirai had helped her revise the contents? He was clearly a husband who deeply loved her, yet he had suddenly undergone a drastic change in temperament, lost his temper at her, and had even personally torn up the letter she wrote to him. Little did they know, all of this was because Jirai had secretly cast a dark curse on him. After Lucina learned that the letter had been torn up, she still refused to believe that Hakan would get angry just because her writing was poor. So she decided to go find him and get a clear answer, and also completely clear up this misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Hakan remained deeply troubled. His recent condition was abnormal, and he kept losing his temper uncontrollably. But in the blink of an eye, he would forget why he had been angry again. At first, he thought there was a problem with the medicine, but even after stopping it, there was still no improvement. So where exactly was the problem? Thinking back on it, the candle the maid had been holding at that time was the most suspicious. When he was reading Lucina's letter, she had also lit that candle for him. He had just wanted to summon the priest to investigate the candle, when Lucina came running to him first. Hakan, I have something I want to tell you. She turned back to make sure no one was behind her, planning to go into the bedroom to talk, which would be safer, because the fact that she possessed healing power absolutely could not be overheard by others. Although he still did not know what she wanted to say, he had always listened to his wife. What I want to tell you is that I have healing power. From now on, you do not need to take medicine anymore because of the rutting period. As long as he saw Lucina, the dark curse would immediately begin to take effect, even though he had been perfectly fine just a moment ago. In an instant, his expression suddenly darkened. Lucina had originally thought that Hakan would be very happy after learning that she possessed healing power, but the man's suddenly changed expression made her feel that something was wrong. The dark curse quickly caused him to have negative hallucinations about Lucina. He saw her leaning close to Jirai's ear and whispering intimately, "I will heal your illness for you." This scene directly drove the man into a frenzy of rage, and he glared at her furiously. "You said you would only love me alone. All of this was lies you used to deceive me." When had she ever lied to him? She only felt that his condition was frighteningly abnormal, and clearly, she was the only one here, yet the image of those two intimately betraying him lingered in his eyes and would not disappear. Not only had that man stolen the woman he loved most, he was even provoking him with the gaze of a victor. With his self-respect completely shattered, he finally could not endure it any longer. He furiously pounced toward Jirai. Lucina looked in horror at the man lunging toward her. Jirai was worried that Hakan would hurt Lucina, so he had followed them all the way here. Unexpectedly, at this moment, he heard Lucina's scream coming from the room. The thing he had feared most had still happened, and guilt instantly pierced his heart. He hurriedly rushed in to check the situation. He saw that she had fallen to the ground and had already lost consciousness. To help her husband come to his senses from the hallucinations, she once again used her sacred healing power. Very soon, the man regained his clarity, but Lucina collapsed from exhaustion. Under the influence of the dark curse, he began to have terrifying hallucinations. He mistakenly believed that his wife had betrayed him, so he lunged forward in a rage, wanting to punish that arrogant man. But he never expected that the one who would truly get hurt was Lucina. By the time Jirai arrived, he found that she had already collapsed on the ground. He quickly helped her up and checked on her condition. Why had Hakan suddenly become so strange? If I use my healing power, can I make him return to normal? If I use sacred power, it might really be possible. But in Hakan's current state, it would be very dangerous for Lucina to stay by his side. But when he saw the two of them embracing, the man instantly flew into a furious rage. How dare you betray me? I will punish you for your crime. He completely lost control of his emotions and wanted nothing more than to kill them on the spot. Seeing this, her eyes reddened with anxiety. If they kept fighting like this, both of them would be in danger. It might not work, but no matter what, I have to try. Hakan, please wake up. In the end, she used all of her healing power on him. Hakan felt a cool, refreshing aura, and that power instantly broke through the darkness that had shrouded him for so long, gradually restoring his clarity. At last, he slowly loosened the hand that was clutching Jirai's collar. She never expected it would really work, and a joyful smile immediately appeared on her face. But the very next second, she fainted from exhaustion. The man caught his collapsing wife and looked at the woman in his arms with eyes full of heartache. He wondered if the person who had just helped him was Lucina. Fortunately, she had only fainted and was not in any mortal danger. He scooped up his wife and carried her back to her room. Just after he left, a maid secretly released a carrier pigeon with a message while no one was paying attention. The candle Hakan had ordered the priest to investigate had indeed been mixed with an evil curse. He immediately gave the order to dispose of that candle. Afterward, he went to the separate palace to visit the unconscious Lucina. He kept blaming himself in his heart because it was only due to the curse that she had been hurt. He only hoped that she would wake up soon so that he could beg for her forgiveness. The young dragon was under attack. He rushed there with his subordinates without stopping for a moment. But unexpectedly, the enemy did not seem to intend a full-scale attack. Only then did he realize that he had fallen into the enemy's diversionary trap. This is a trap. Their real target is the fortress. He had just been about to return when a knight clad in black armor suddenly appeared. After 10 years, brat, we finally meet again. It was actually that woman's voice. So you still remember? I was the one who killed your brother with my own hands. Hatred pierced his heart in an instant. He tightened his grip on his spear and charged at her in fury. I will definitely cut off your head and avenge my brother. The two engaged in a fierce battle, and the fight lasted a full 300 rounds. In the end, he stabbed the other party with his sword and thought victory was already in his grasp. But in the very next second, he was suddenly struck in return, and a sharp pain surged through him. Blood instantly burst from his mouth. He stared at the scene before him in disbelief. Lucina finally woke up. From Titi, she learned that Hakan had gone to protect the young dragon. Filled with worry, she hurried outside. But at that moment, the accompanying troops had already returned, and after searching all around, she still did not see the one person she most wanted to see. She quickly asked Turan where Hakan had gone. While fighting the dragon slayer, His Majesty was struck by a dark magic arrow. He was just taken to the sacred land for treatment. This time, she bravely stepped forward. Let me go. I will definitely heal Hakan. In order to save the dragon on the verge of death, she no longer hid her true power. She unleashed powerful healing power on him and treated his wounds. But what she never could have imagined was that the giant dragon she had just saved would turn into her husband. Lucina followed the aura into the sacred domain. She had originally thought she would see the badly injured Hakan, but to her surprise, what came into view was actually a giant dragon. At a single glance, she recognized that this was the very dragon she had saved when she was a child. At that moment, he spoke, his gaze flickering slightly. Do you still remember me? We met 10 years ago. I helped heal your wounds, so will you help me find my husband? Hakan instantly realized that the person before him was the little girl who had saved him 10 years ago. He had never imagined that the lifesaver he had been searching for all these years had actually been his wife by his side all along. He was so excited that he was just about to get up, but unexpectedly, his wound suddenly split open. Seeing this, Lucina quickly used her healing power on him. As that cool aura slowly spread, his wound began healing at an astonishing speed. But in the very next second, that giant dragon transformed into human form. Hearing that familiar voice, she quickly raised her head. Why was Hakan here? And where had the dragon from just now gone? The man suddenly pulled her tightly into his arms, just like 10 years ago.
It was you who saved me.
Only then did she finally realize that the dragon was Hakan. Lucina had already saved him twice, but his heart was still full of guilt because under the influence of the dark curse, he had hurt her. I do not dare ask for your forgiveness, but please give me a chance to atone. So it turned out that Hakan's drastic change in temperament during this time had not been his true intention. She comforted him softly. It's all right. Being cursed was never something you could control. I now have healing power, and I will definitely be able to safely give birth to our child. So from now on, You do not need to keep enduring everything for my sake anymore." The happiness came so suddenly that he stood there in a daze, looking at the sweet and radiant smile on his wife's face. Happiness, like warm sunlight, slowly filled his heart. The hearts of two people in love could no longer suppress their desire to draw close to each other. As soon as Hakan carried Lucina out of the sacred domain, he impatiently urged Turan to return to the palace and prepare the bedchamber. His meaning could not have been clearer. He was hinting to his wife that they should make up for all the time they had missed. When she realized what he meant, her face instantly turned red. Titi learned that tonight they would finally have their first night together. She decided to personally dress her up beautifully. Thanks to Titi's efforts, Lucina looked dazzlingly beautiful tonight. But just as she arrived outside Hakan's bedchamber, thinking about what might happen next, her heart still raced with nervousness. In the end, she gathered her courage and pushed the door open to go in. The man had been sitting by the bed the whole time, quietly waiting for his wife to arrive. After walking up to Hakan, she was so shy that she did not even dare to lift her head. Suddenly, a pair of large hands wrapped around her slender waist. He directly lifted her onto his lap and asked whether she was shy. She answered honestly, just a little. The man looked at his beloved with eyes as gentle as water. Lucina urged him to hurry up and stop dawdling. Seeing how anxious his wife was, he could not help but let out a soft laugh. In the end, he pushed her down in one swift motion. Only then did he slowly lean down toward her. At the moment their lips touched, love flowed slowly between them like water. Can I still get pregnant with a dragon baby, even if it's not the fertile period? Of course you can. It's just that the chances are higher during the fertile period. Only after confirming that his wife felt no discomfort at all did he finally feel at ease. Early the next morning, Hakan carried Lucina out of the room in his arms. Turan and Titi were so moved that tears filled their eyes. They had finally waited for this moment. He asked in confusion, "Your Majesty, where are you going?" He answered directly that his wife was too tired last night, so he was taking her to soak in a hot spring and relax. Hearing this, Lucina's face instantly turned bright red. Embarrassed, she reproached him for saying such things so directly. This young couple shared a bed for the first time, and the very next day, his wife immediately became pregnant with a dragon baby. Hakan was overwhelmed with excitement and pulled her tightly into his arms. "We finally have a child." Lucina noticed an injury on Hakan's face. She had originally wanted to use her healing power on him to treat the wound, but unexpectedly, it did not work, and the two of them froze in place at the same time. She remembered that Puka had once said that as long as she became pregnant, her healing power would temporarily be used first to protect the dragon baby. Could it be that she was already pregnant? After the priest examined her, it was confirmed that she was carrying a child of the dragon clan. She gently touched her flat lower abdomen, feeling only disbelief that the crystallization of her and Hakan's love was growing there. She had just wanted to share this joy with her husband, but the man had already excitedly pulled her into his arms. He gazed at his wife with eyes full of adoration. "Just tell me whatever you want, whether it's gold or jewels. I will give it to you." His wife wanted to eat fruit, so he directly had all kinds of fruit delivered in mountain-like piles. "So, if I say I want something, will you bring me a huge pile of it?" But to him, even this was far from enough to express his love for his wife. He personally picked up a grape. He coaxed his wife to eat a little more so that she could grow fair and plump. As he spoke, he held it to her lips, and she did not hesitate. She ate the grape he offered her, and happiness instantly overflowed in her heart. This display of affection directly stuffed the little single fairy beside them full of secondhand sweetness. The little fairy reminded Lucina that after becoming pregnant, she could no longer continue using healing power. Then, what if Hakan gets injured again when he goes off to war? I heard that a holy relic of the Brienne Carmel Church can block dark magic arrows. That is to say, if the Carmel Church is willing to help, then both Hakan and Tyre will be safe and sound. She told Hakan this news, but the rumored Holy Emperor was a stubborn and rigid person. He would definitely not be willing to help Tyre. If I make it known to the Holy Emperor that I possess healing power, perhaps he will become interested in me because of it, even though they are not friendly toward Tyre at all. He did not understand why she was still so determined to seek their help. In fact, the reason she was doing all this was because she was worried about Hakan's safety. What if the Dragon Slayer uses dark magic arrows to hurt you again? So everything she had done was for him. The bean-sized tears from his wife struck directly into his heart one by one. At that moment, he finally softened and compromised, agreeing that he would write a letter to the Carmel Church. "Then I will also write a letter to the Holy Emperor. That way, he will pay even more attention to this matter." He affectionately patted his wife's head. "Understood. I will appeal to reason, and you can appeal to emotion." Lucina was not only completely unharmed, but also spent her first night with Hakan and even successfully became pregnant with his dragon baby. She was so jealous she was almost driven mad, and in order to get rid of Lucina as soon as possible, she planned to frame her for casting the dark curse on Hakan. Who would have thought that one of the maids was actually her spy? Taking advantage of everyone being off guard, she secretly released a carrier pigeon to send a message. But unexpectedly, the one who received the message was actually the dragon slayer who had injured Hakan. The moment the helmet was removed, that face looked strikingly similar to Lucina's. The young couple shared a bed for the first time. His wife immediately became pregnant with his dragon baby. From then on, Hakan stuck to her every day. He even held her sweetly and taught her how to write letters hand in hand. He praised her, saying her writing had improved a lot compared to before. Hearing that, she puffed up her cheeks and said, "Was my writing really that bad before?" The man, with his survival instincts fully activated, hurriedly coaxed his wife. "What I meant was that your writing was already amazing before, and this time it's even better." Hearing her husband's sweet flattery, she instantly beamed with joy. She wrote with even more enthusiasm, moving her pen non-stop across the page. But before long, the restless man behind her kept taking deep breaths, inhaling the scent of sweat on his wife. It was all because the way she looked when she was serious was so captivating that he almost completely lost control of himself. Let's stop the letter here for now. Next, it's time for our private world as a couple. No, I need to hurry and finish the letter to send to the Holy Emperor. Hearing his wife's merciless refusal, Hakan immediately drooped his head. He could only take a step back and let her write while keeping him company with conversation. He gently stroked her belly, marveling that it already carried the crystallization of their love. He asked the question most couples would ask, "Do you like sons or daughters?" But Lucina instead turned the question back on him, and Hakan admitted that he actually hoped the baby would be a daughter. After all, among the dragon race, daughters had always been showered with endless love because it was truly very difficult for the dragon race to have a daughter. But for her, whether it was a son or a daughter was not important. She only hoped the baby could grow up healthy. Hakan also agreed very much with what she said. The young couple both looked forward to the birth of their dragon baby, then held each other tightly, immersed in their harbor of happiness. But then an inconsiderate woman came to disturb their private time, and the man's expression darkened as he directly told her to get lost. Lucina, however, got up from his lap. Maybe she has something very important to tell you. Since his wife had spoken, he could only helplessly allow Galit to come in. But the woman who had been so arrogant before was unexpectedly, for once, extremely respectful toward Lucina this time. It was probably because Hakan's warning last time had taken effect. She said she had something very important to say to Hakan, and could only ask Lady Lucina to step aside for a moment. Lucina does not need to leave. She will soon be Tyr's princess consort. Seeing how Hakan protected her like this, Galit still did not forget that next she was going to sell out her own younger brother, accusing him of being the real culprit behind casting the dark curse on Hakan, pouring all the dirty water onto him, and removing herself from the matter completely cleanly. All of this was Jirai's doing alone, so arrest him immediately and bring him to justice. Lucina looked full of disbelief. Was it really him? No matter how severely they tortured him for a confession, Jirai never exposed Galit. Hakan could not understand it, and in the end could only tell Lucina the truth, comforting his wife and telling her not to be too sad. But next, he had to leave the palace for a week, and he truly could not bear to be separated from her. He even started blaming those elders at the meeting who kept urging him non-stop. "You don't need to worry about me. I can manage for a week by myself." Who would have thought that Hakan's departure would give Galit the chance to frame Lucina? With her younger brother absent, the vicious sister-in-law plotted to harm her younger brother's wife, actually pinning the matter of cursing Hakan onto her, all so she could get rid of her. It was the young couple's first separation, and both of them were reluctant to part. Gazing at each other, Hakan bent down and embraced his wife deeply, truly unable to bear leaving her. In the end, even Turan could not stand how lovey-dovey the two were being, and urged his king that it was time to depart. Yet the moment Hakan left, Galit could not wait to make her move. She sent someone to secretly place the planted evidence in Lucina's bedchamber. And Lucina herself had also been feeling a constant sense of unease. A guard came up and immediately grabbed her wrist. TT quickly shielded Lucina behind her and demanded to know what he was trying to do. "Forbidden items of evil have been found in Lady Lucina's bedchamber, and she needs to come with me for confirmation." Hearing this, she only felt confused. She had clearly been staying in her room these past few days and had done nothing. Seeing that she refused to cooperate, the guard directly reached out and seized her, but TT stopped him once again. Who could have expected that the very next second, the man knocked TT down with one punch, then dragged Lucina away. He roughly hauled her before Galit. "Heavens, Lady Lucina, a palace servant has identified that forbidden items were found in your sleeping chambers." Seeing her utterly bewildered, Galit had a servant present the item. Now she was even more dumbfounded. What on earth was this pitch-black candle? You really recognized it at a glance. This candle is exactly the thing that caused His Majesty to fall under the curse. Hearing this, she was struck like a bolt from the blue. She had clearly done nothing, yet they had pinned this thing on her. "Are you saying that I am lying?" Seeing that Lucina still refused to admit it, "Then we can only ask you to stay temporarily in another palace until His Majesty returns for interrogation." With that, She swaggered away in gloating triumph. When the little sprite learned that she had been imprisoned by that evil woman, it became extremely worried about her condition. The moment it turned its head, it discovered two sneaky black-clothed men heading this way. Its heart immediately sank. Lucina was definitely in danger. Carefully skimming over their heads, it sped off at top speed to find Hakan. Suddenly, with a loud crash, the glass was smashed open with a huge hole, and the masked men quickly climbed in. She was scared out of her wits at once, and unconsciously backed away in fear. She hurriedly called out for someone to come in and save her, but unexpectedly, there was no movement outside at all. Clearly, the guards had already been lured away. The next second, the man in black clamped a hand over her mouth. Seeing that the plan had succeeded, Gallet revealed a smug smile. Stupid human girl. Just wait until Hakan comes back. By then, she should already be dead. Lucina was being abducted and taken away on horseback by the man in black. Unexpectedly, it started raining all of a sudden at the worst possible moment. The rain was so heavy that the horse could not continue forward at all. They planned to find a place to shelter from the rain and rest first, so they might as well make a move now. No, if we do that, the body will be found too easily. Only then did she realize that they were planning to get rid of her. Then what would happen to the child she and Hakan had? While they were arguing because they disagreed, she quickly and quietly ran away at once. They soon noticed and chased after her. Just then, her foot was caught by a piece of wood, and she lost her balance and fell hard to the ground. At the same time as the sharp pain hit, she seemed to feel liquid flowing from her lower body. Could it be the baby? His wife was almost killed, and only then did her husband arrive belatedly. After learning that the masked men who abducted her wanted to kill her, they immediately chased after them. Unexpectedly, she had been tripped, and a sharp pain suddenly shot through her stomach. Could the baby be in danger? However, the men in black behind her quickly caught up. Stupid girl, do you really think you can escape? Lucina had originally thought that she and her child would both die here. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, the man in black would be silenced on the spot by the knight who rushed over? She looked at the blurry figure ahead, and her eyes instantly lit up. She thought it was her husband who had come to save her from danger. But then she saw the other party give a scornful smile. Hakan, that's the name of your barbarian husband, right? Long time no see, my dear sister. Unexpectedly, the person who came was actually her half-brother from the same father. His sinister smile sent a chill down her spine. He ordered a mage to check Lucina's pulse. After the examination, the other party reported to Baron that the child in her womb was fine. Only then did she realize that he was confirming whether the fetus in her belly was safe. She simply could not understand why Baron would suddenly care about her child. However, from their conversation, she learned that she was going to be taken away. Where are you planning to take me? The other party did not answer. Instead, he mocked her, saying that she used to be mute all day long and never speak, and who would have thought that those barbarians had taught her to talk. After saying that, he ordered them to take her away. If she was taken back, she would never see Hakan again. So she desperately resisted their attempt to seize her. Unexpectedly, this only angered Baron even more. It was all because you fled to tire that my mother and I lived like dogs. As soon as he said that, he raised his hand to strike her. Meanwhile, because Hakan was worried about Lucina, he hurried back home. Only then did he learn from Titi that Lucina had been confined for using dark magic, which he simply could not understand. Why would everyone believe Gallet's one-sided story? But when he came to the bedchamber, he found that his wife was not inside, and the shattered window clearly showed that she had just been taken away by force. Hakan revealed his dragon form and tracked her whereabouts all the way. Fortunately, he quickly discovered that the villains were attacking his wife. Burning with towering rage, he dove toward them. Seeing this, Baron immediately panicked. Even the others abandoned him and fled in terror. Lucina saw that her husband had finally come to save her. Hakan told her to close her eyes at once. Then, with green light glowing in his eyes and a dark expression on his face, he raised his blade and brought it down. I spared your life before, and now you still dare to abduct my wife. After saying that, he ended him with a single stroke of his sword. Seeing her husband slaughter in a frenzy, as if he had lost control, Lucina trembled and begged him to stop quickly. The man hurried over and caught his wife, who was about to collapse. Gallet said you ran away because you were afraid of being punished. Let's go back first, okay? I'm very tired right now. After saying that, she fainted, although Lucina had lost too much blood. Fortunately, the child in her womb was safe and sound. Thinking about how, during the days he had been away, his wife had nearly been killed, the next thing he had to deal with was those who dared to slander my wife. After learning that his wife was in danger, Hakan immediately rushed off to rescue her. Fortunately, in the end, both she and the child were safe. So next, it was time to properly deal with those who had tried to harm Lucina. But Gallet refused to admit her crime, and instead dumped all the blame onto her younger brother. He had originally thought Jirai would take the blame for her as usual, but unexpectedly, he identified her on the spot, saying that he had only used dark magic because he was forced to under her orders. Because Galit cast dark magic on the Queen Mother and the King. The final verdict was, the criminal would be stripped of her title as the former royal consort and sentenced to death. In the end, Jirai pleaded for leniency for her to repay his sister's kindness, and although her life was spared, she was branded and permanently imprisoned in the cold palace. As for him, he was also punished with hard labor. This way, he could not only get away from his sister, but also remain by Lucina's side, and that was enough for him. After Lucina learned that Jirai had been punished, she felt somewhat upset. So Hakan told her some good news to cheer her up. I have decided to make you the temporary royal consort. However, you'll have to wait until after the wedding before you can move into the Crown Princess Palace. He had also prepared another little surprise. Lucina looked full of anticipation. Hakan then nodded in signal. TT, having received the hint, immediately opened the door. Unexpectedly, the person who came in was Hakan's mother, Lady Adal. Who would have thought that the moment she saw Lucina, she called her pretty big sister? It turned out that her mental state had not fully recovered, possibly because she had been under dark magic for a long time. Hearing this, Lucina took the initiative to offer to take responsibility for caring for her. Would you like to live with me in the separate palace from now on? I would like that, pretty big sister. But if Adal was to recover completely, Jirai's help was still needed. Hearing this, the man immediately frowned. Although he was unwilling in his heart, for his mother's sake, he could only do as his wife said. During the next month, as long as Jirai appeared at the separate palace, and even secretly looked at his wife right under his nose, jealousy would instantly surge in his heart. Fortunately, his wife lowered her head to avoid suspicion. He had clearly agreed with Lucina to visit his mother together, but when he actually arrived at the separate palace, he suddenly became somewhat timid and did not dare go in. The reason was that he had not known before that Galit had been plotting against his mother all along, and had even entrusted his mother to her care. So he had always been deeply blaming himself. Lucina comforted him and said it was okay, believing that Lady Adal would not blame you. Only then did he gather the courage to walk in. His mother, whose mind had already recovered, was very happy to see her son come, and at last the mother and son were finally able to untie the knot in their hearts. In the end, they held each other tightly, feeling that long-lost warmth. Lucina watched the scene with great relief in her heart. Meanwhile, the little fairy eavesdropped on their gossip and found it utterly boring. Who would have thought that when it turned its head, it discovered a black bird sneaking around suspiciously? It looked like it was carrying a message out from the palace. Driven by curiosity, it fluttered its wings and quietly followed all the way after it. It saw the carrier pigeon deliver the letter to a woman, but to its shock, the woman looked remarkably similar to Lucina. After reading the letter, the woman revealed a greedy smile. As long as I wait until Lucina's child is born, Tyre will be mine. To welcome the birth of the dragon baby, Hakan had prepared in advance everything the child would need after being born. Lucina felt that this was a bit too much. After all, they only had one baby now. But the man felt it was still far from enough, and whatever was left could be used for their other children. Seeing that his wife did not understand, he explained that if you don't feel too tired, we can have a second child too. As long as I look at you and the babies, I feel very happy. He was extremely grateful that Lucina possessed healing powers. That way, she could safely give birth to the dragon baby. And the man also regretted not finding out sooner that the little girl who had saved him 10 years ago was Lucina. Since healing power is so precious to Tyre, why didn't you take me away the first time you saw me? It turned out that at the time, he had thought Lucina had a happy family of her own. He felt he had no right to casually change the life of his savior, so he had sent her unconscious body back home. But in truth, he had always regretted not realizing sooner that she was suffering in the Baron's house. No matter what, he would definitely protect her. Who would have thought that after hearing his explanation, his wife would turn her head away in a huff and complain that if it weren't for you, I would have escaped successfully back then. In the end, I was even almost sold to the old king as a concubine. The man immediately panicked and apologized to her helplessly. What should I do for you to calm down? Seeing that he was truly frightened, Lucina burst into laughter. I was joking. Although I did not live well in the Baron's house, in the end, we still met again, and I am truly very happy to be with you. Hearing this, he was deeply moved. The two of them could not help but hold each other tightly, feeling the surging love between them. The little fairy, forced to witness such a big display of affection, finally could not stand it and poked the window hard. When she saw that it was Puka, she immediately became very happy. She asked why it had not appeared these past few days, and what exactly had happened. Oh, don't even mention it. I was chased and attacked by a flock of crazy birds and thought I really wouldn't escape this time. It turned out that not long ago, it had gone to Brienne, and as a result, it overheard a shocking secret. Hearing this, her heart immediately skipped a beat. She worried whether Puka had been hurt because of it, especially since she still could not use healing power now. It mysteriously beckoned to Lucina, signaling her to come closer. I saw someone in the Baron's house, a woman who looks exactly like you. Hearing this, She froze completely. "And I even heard your name from her mouth. Do you know who that person is?" She shook her head, saying that she did not know either. For some reason, she always had a bad feeling in her heart. Before leaving, Puka told her that the woman's hair was blonde. It was exactly the same color Lucina's hair had been when it first met her. She explained to Puka that she had heard the old king of Brienne favored blonde hair, so her stepmother had forcibly dyed her hair that way. Just then, Titi came to report that Adal had come to see her. The little fairy quickly flew away, and only then was the conversation temporarily interrupted. Hakan returned to the secondary palace and saw that his wife was studying the diary her mother had left behind. But this only made him even more worried. His wife was already having a hard time because of her pregnancy, and now she still had to spend energy researching herbs. As your belly grows bigger and bigger, I truly cannot stop worrying. In order to finish the research more quickly, she proposed letting Jirai help her, since he was a knowledgeable genius after all. Hearing this, the man immediately felt that he had dug a pit for himself. This man was simply the ultimate wife-doting madman in history. His wife wanted to do research together with his romantic rival, and he had to agree even while enduring heartache. When his wife wanted to eat rare passion fruit because of morning sickness, he directly snatched back an entire sack of it. He even planned to build her a palace made entirely of pure gold. Hakan felt that even visiting his wife 800 times a day was not enough. After all, he had not delayed his work. Only Turan suffered, nearly being driven mad every time he came to ask the king to go back and handle official affairs. After sitting down, he wanted to tell Lucina some good news. However, she thought it was a reply from the Holy Emperor. "I want to build a new crown princess palace for you. I plan to make it entirely out of pure gold, and even the furniture and decorations must be of the highest quality." Lucina felt that the current crown princess palace was already luxurious enough, but the man felt this was still far from enough. He hoped his wife could enjoy the highest standard of treatment for a dragon queen in the history of the dragon clan, whether in food, clothing, or daily necessities. She deserved the very best. He had even already thought about the wedding dress she would wear at the wedding, as well as the jewelry she would put on. But compared with all that, what she cared about more was when exactly the Holy Emperor would reply to her. The atmosphere instantly fell silent. Thinking that she had poured cold water on him, he lowered his eyes and told her that there had still been no reply to the letter sent to the Holy Emperor of Brienne. "You care more about state affairs than I, the ruler of this nation, do. It seems I really should learn from you. Is there no reply because the Holy Emperor does not want to come to Tyre?" As the dragon baby grew rapidly, her belly also became larger and larger. Because of this, she often felt nauseous and unwell. Seeing that his wife felt sick yet was still busy working, Hakan felt terribly distressed. He told her to stop and rest first, and personally fed her something to nourish her body. She said somewhat shyly that she could eat by herself, but he could not bear to let his wife tire her hands, and still insisted on feeding her personally. Who would have thought that the moment she merely smelled the food, her stomach instantly churned violently? Seeing this, the man anxiously asked her what was wrong. Soon after, she could no longer suppress the nausea and directly vomited. Seeing his wife in such discomfort, Hakan was both distressed and anxious. He immediately called the priest to examine her. It turned out that Lucina had simply started having morning sickness. Because the symptoms of morning sickness vary from person to person, but Lady Lucina seemed to feel nauseated by most foods, so they had to find the one food she did not reject. Hakan immediately took on the duties of a model husband. Every day, he tried every possible way to find food his wife could eat during her morning sickness. Turan thought of a way that might relieve morning sickness. When his mother had been pregnant with him, she ate that, and her morning sickness immediately improved. It was a kind of fruit that grew on the hot southern continent. Because it was so scarce, it was extremely difficult to buy. "There is nothing I cannot buy. Prepare my horse at once." Not long afterward, Hakan quickly returned to Lucina's side and placed a whole sack of fresh fruit in front of her. These were all extremely rare and expensive fruits. She asked him how exactly he had gotten them. "It was nothing. As long as it's for you, there is nothing I cannot do." Turan was going crazy on the spot beside them. These had clearly all been taken by force. It turned out that after they rushed to the destination without stopping, they had still ended up one step too late. The last batch of passion fruit had just been bought up by someone else. So he immediately darkened his face and prepared to go seize that person and bring him back. "So these fruits were all taken by force by you? I paid him the proper compensation. So how can that be called taking by force?" Turan was merely exaggerating. At that level, it was practically no different from outright robbery. "After that man was caught by you, he was so frightened his pants were practically wet. Didn't I pay him gold according to the quantity of the fruit?" Only after hearing this did she finally feel somewhat relieved. But with so much fruit, how could she possibly finish it all? It would be better if everyone ate together. She thanked her husband for everything he had done for her. Hearing this, the man immediately blushed. Inside the temple of the kingdom of Brienne, the Holy Emperor received Lucina's letter in shock. The young couple had their first quarrel. The reason was actually that the man had become jealous. It turned out that, in order to welcome the Holy Emperor's arrival, Lucina had diverted the decorations originally meant for the wedding. The man who had been showering his wife with praise 1 second before unexpectedly turned jealous the next second. You actually want to use them for the ceremony welcoming the Holy Emperor. Those are things I bought for you. Absolutely not. If they wanted the Holy Emperor to lend the sacred artifact to the Dragon Clan, they had to prepare a grand welcoming ceremony. The husband and wife each had fully valid reasons, and they confronted each other head-on, neither willing to back down. However, in the end, Hakan was the first to soften. Seeing that her husband was still sulking, Lucina quickly held his hand tightly and patiently soothed him. I promise you, our wedding will definitely be even grander than this welcoming ceremony. This time, I absolutely will not wear the wedding dress you prepared for me. With just a few short sentences, she completely won over his heart, and Hakan's anger subsided. He held his wife and praised her repeatedly, saying, "How can you be this lovable? I have already started looking forward to the day of our wedding." His wife glared at him in a huff. "You clearly already agreed, and yet you still deliberately teased me. Haha, so you still figured it out." At this moment, TT came to report that the Holy Emperor had arrived. What Hakan did not expect was that a man already over 80 years old could still look so youthful and fresh. The two first exchanged a few polite greetings. After Lucina greeted the Holy Emperor, he smilingly took her slender, fair hand. The next second, he even placed a kiss on the back of her hand. Hakan's expression instantly darkened, and he furrowed his brows tightly. "I came to Tyre after reading your letter." Hearing this, Lucina was very surprised, and when Hakan saw that he kept holding his wife's hand without letting go, he immediately pulled her into his arms, declaring his claim. He also said that the dancers had already been arranged, and they could discuss the sacred artifact after dinner. Who would have thought that the other party had no interest in discussing that with him at all? In fact, he had come to Tyre this time for Lucina. Hearing this, the man's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. In the end, he had no choice but to agree to the other party's request and let his wife talk with him alone for a while. As for himself, he stood outside fuming with rage. He let his imagination run wild, wondering whether the Holy Emperor had taken a liking to his wife. Then he comforted himself that the other party was, after all, an 80-year-old man, and perhaps he was only interested in Lucina's healing power. The Holy Emperor was very curious about exactly when Lucina had acquired healing powers. It turned out that simply because she was the Baron's illegitimate daughter. She had often been beaten by her stepmother ever since childhood. Once, she accidentally placed her hand near a wound, and it actually began to heal slowly. But she had not often used that power, because she was afraid that after the wound healed, she would be beaten again. Hearing about the tragedy of her childhood, the Holy Emperor's heart suddenly ached, and guilt instantly surged into his heart. He asked the question that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. Have you ever hated your parents? I had no extra energy to hate them. If my mother were truly a good person, she would not have abandoned her own child. Hearing this, the guilt in his heart deepened even more. I should have come earlier. Lucina did not understand why he would say such a thing to her, but she still comforted him and said, "It's okay, because I have Hakan. It seems the king of the Dragon Clan treats you very well. Of course, after all, we truly love each other." Lucina replied with a face full of happiness. Who would have thought that the next second he would say to her, "I hope you leave this place and go with me to the Grand Temple." Meanwhile, the man waiting anxiously outside learned from Turan that the Holy Emperor had once loved a woman who was as fair and beautiful as a moon elf. You mean he once loved a woman who looked extremely similar to Lucina? Just because his wife was alone together with another man, the man was already nearly mad with jealousy. And now that he learned the Holy Emperor had once liked a woman who looked just like Lucina, he became even more restless, afraid that his wife would be stolen away. No matter what, he was determined to rush in and interrupt them. When she saw Hakan, Lucina asked in confusion what had happened. "You two were talking for so long, so I was just a little worried." And the Holy Emperor saw at a glance that Hakan was jealous, his tone carrying a trace of teasing. "You care a great deal about my being with Lucina, don't you?" Even after being directly exposed by the other party, Hakan still denied it without changing expression. After the couple said goodbye to the Holy Emperor, Lucina sensed that something was slightly off about her husband's mood and thought that something had gone wrong with the banquet. "Thanks to you, the banquet went very smoothly. The problem is that I am still jealous of the Holy Emperor even now, especially when I saw how well matched you look standing together. I was so jealous I was about to go mad. That is why I deliberately found an excuse to separate you two." Hearing this, Lucina held him tightly and comforted him. "If it were me, seeing my husband with another woman, I would definitely feel jealous and upset too." Only after receiving his wife's understanding did he finally put down that uneasy and restless heart. Lucina told him not to worry and promised that she would stay by his side for the rest of her life. Thinking of the Holy Emperor's earlier proposal, he hoped that she would leave Tyre and go to the temple with him. But before she could answer, Hakan interrupted directly. Now, the answer in her heart had instead become even firmer. "Go to the banquet first, all right? There are still some things I didn't have time to finish saying to the Holy Emperor just now." Seeing the person who walked in, the Holy Emperor guessed that she would definitely come back, but what surprised him was that Lucina had no intention at all of leaving Tyre. And the Holy Emperor also told her that he had reasons why he had no choice but to do this. "If you insist on staying here, both you and the child in your womb will be in danger. So that is why I suggested that you go with me to the Grand Temple. Only there can I protect you." Hearing this, she panicked instantly. Afterward, she told Hakan about this matter. It turned out that a monster called Heir was planning to attack Tyre, and the dragon slayers who had long been oppressing Tyre were actually backed by Heir. Now, their leader was coveting the child in Lucina's womb. Lucina instantly thought that this matter might be related to the woman who looked exactly like her. Hakan had already understood the general situation, but what he did not understand was why Lucina had to be protected in the Grand Temple. Also, how did the Holy Emperor know all of Heir's schemes? He first answered the first question, because Heir was a monster and could not withstand the power of the gods. Compared with Tyre, the Grand Temple could better guarantee Lucina's safety. But as for the second question, he still could not tell them for now. When the time was right, he would naturally tell them. And Lucina raised a question. Aside from going to the Grand Temple, was there any other way? As long as Heir is completely eliminated before you give birth, that will do. Hearing this method, she lowered her head in disappointment. But Hakan felt that there would eventually be a battle between him and the Dragon Slayers. As long as the Holy Emperor was willing to lend him the Holy Relic, he was confident he could win this war. To this, the Holy Emperor was strongly opposed. If Lucina gives birth before the war is over, then they will be able to capture Tyre with ease. In the end, both Lucina and the child would fall into danger. Sending his wife to the Grand Temple should have been the safest method, but in his heart, he was afraid of being separated from her. And Lucina saw at a glance what her husband was thinking. He felt that his wife was lying. "Then let me guess, you're worried about me going to the Grand Temple, aren't you?" Hakan did not expect that she would guess it right at once. He really was jealous of the relationship between Lucina and the Holy Emperor, but his wife happened to be so understanding and willing to consider his feelings. This made him even more uncertain whether he should send her to the Grand Temple or continue to keep her in Tyre. "I want to hear your reasons first before making a decision. Is it because you are jealous of the Holy Emperor?" It was not only because of jealousy, but also because he was worried that after she went to the Grand Temple, she would never come back again. In the end, it was because he felt inferior and thought that he was still not good enough. Compared to marrying a rough man like him, he even felt that Lucina would be happier with the Holy Emperor. "If you had another choice, would you still stay with me? Are you a fool? How could you worry that I would go to the Grand Temple and never come back? I am going to become the Princess of Tyre. Until the day I die, I will never leave you." Hearing this, the man was so moved that he held her tightly. "I will never let you leave my side for the rest of my life, not even in my imagination." After saying that, the two embraced and kissed passionately. The next day, the three of them gathered together again. "Have you made your decision?" Lucina told the Holy Emperor firmly and decisively that, as the princess, she would never leave Tyre. Seeing the determination and sense of responsibility in her eyes, the Holy Emperor sighed that she had truly grown up now. So he no longer tried to persuade her, and instead chose to support her. In order to help them win this war, he even took the initiative to lend them the Holy Relic. He only hoped that Lucina and the child would both remain safe, and that it would also make up for the father's responsibility he had failed to fulfill. Hearing this, both husband and wife were extremely shocked, but Hakan did not believe that the Holy Emperor would help him unconditionally. Just then, Lucina's mother-in-law came to see her. Titi told her that Adal had started acting confused again. With one glance, the Holy Emperor saw that she was deeply affected by dark magic, and he proactively offered to treat his mother in exchange for Hakan's trust. As he unleashed a powerful sacred healing power, Adal felt that the black fog entangling her mind instantly dispersed. This time, Hakan finally believed that the other party truly wanted to help him. Meanwhile, after studying Lucina's blood, Jirai came to a conclusion. He discovered that she actually possessed the bloodline of the moon race. Although this race had nothing to do with divine power, the healing power contained in her blood was abnormally strong. The Duke speculated that she might be a descendant of the moon race. His wife was about to give birth to a dragon child, yet her husband was still fighting on the battlefield, completely unaware of all this. Ever since Lucina learned that she might possess the bloodline of the moon race, she had been searching for the truth related to her origins. Every day, she buried herself in reading and went through a large number of books. Finally, she discovered a woman with white hair and silver eyes in the history books. That face looked astonishingly similar to her own. She was the founder of Carmel Church, and also the Lady Lurba of the Duchy of Aurora. Lucina could not help but wonder whether their resemblance was perhaps not merely a coincidence. A piercing pain suddenly came from her abdomen, and she could not understand why her labor pains had been getting more and more frequent recently. She had just stood up and wanted to call Titi in when unexpectedly her legs gave way and she fell heavily to her knees. The pain in her abdomen made cold sweat pour down her, and she had no strength at all left in her body. After Titi came in and noticed something was wrong, she immediately ran to call someone. After an examination by the midwife, it was ultimately determined that she was already showing signs of premature labor. But the biggest problem was that his wife was about to give birth. Yet, as her husband, the king was not by her side. "Lady Lucina, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." She endured the labor pains and did not want to tell Hakan about this, so as not to make him worry, but Titi immediately opposed it. The king had always been looking forward to the child's birth and would surely want to come back and stay by your side until the delivery. Thinking about it that way, it did seem to make sense, so she agreed to let Titi send a message to Hakan by carrier pigeon. At the very moment Hakan received the letter, on the other side, the blonde woman also learned that Lucina was about to give birth and immediately revealed a greedy smile. So she ordered her subordinates to stop Hakan from returning to Tyre no matter what. "Lady Marissa, your hair color is gradually returning to silver." How annoying, but it doesn't matter anyway, since I don't need to turn back into a blonde. She was just about to set out for Tyre. Here, Hakan had only just departed and was preparing to return to accompany his wife through childbirth. But unexpectedly, halfway there, he was blocked by the people sent by Marissa. Left with no choice, he could only throw himself into battle again, but his heart was constantly worried about his wife's condition. The only thing he wanted was to end all of this as quickly as possible. Lucina's labor pains lasted for several days. Because of this, Titi was on edge every day. Just then, the Holy Emperor, whom they had not seen for many days, suddenly came to visit her. It turned out that he had learned that she was about to give birth, so he had come especially to check on her physical condition. As the other party used healing sacred power, she felt that the severe pain in her body eased a great deal, but she was still somewhat confused in her heart as to why the Holy Emperor cared about her so much. Why did the Holy Emperor care about her so much, even helping her unconditionally every time and asking for nothing in return? Not only that, this time, he had even specially brought her a gift. It was a dazzling ruby necklace. Within this necklace was a trace of divine power that he had infused into it, which could protect her safety at a critical moment. Having never felt fatherly love since childhood, at this moment, a wave of warmth unexpectedly rose in her heart. At this time, the midwife came in to perform Lucina's routine examination. And since the Holy Emperor was, after all, a man, it was inconvenient for him to continue staying there. Just as he was preparing to leave, while passing by the midwife, the holy relic suddenly revealed the other party's terrifying true form and exposed that she was not human at all. He immediately grabbed her. "You vile thing. Why don't you hurry up and reveal your ugly true form?" But not only was she not afraid, she instead looked full of pride and burst into loud laughter. Seeing this, he immediately splashed a bottle of holy water at her. As she struggled with a twisted face, who would have thought that the ugly midwife from just now would turn into a stunningly beautiful woman with white hair and silver eyes, a dazzling jewel hanging on her forehead, and a sacred and elegant radiance emanating from her entire body? Lucina was utterly shocked, because not long before, she had just seen this woman in a book. She was none other than Lurba, the lady of the Duchy of Ruaru. Clearly, this was the first meeting between mother and daughter, yet this mother only wanted the lives of her and the child in her womb. That way, she would be able to obtain both divine power and the power of the dragon race at the same time. "Lucina, come here quickly." She had seen this person in historical records, yet she could not understand no matter what why Lady Lurba would appear here. "Don't joke around. You're actually still imitating Lurba now. You are nothing more than a filthy and lowly monster." Who knew that in the next second, that woman would directly kiss his lips? A strong sense of disgust instantly surged in the Holy Emperor's heart. Without mercy, he pushed away the woman who had forcefully kissed him, looking at him wiping his lips with a face full of disgust. "How much longer are you going to keep pretending to be noble when we've clearly done even more excessive things?" These words instantly enraged him, and he directly unleashed divine power. At the same time, he instructed Titi to first take Lucina away. Next, he himself would deal with this arrogant monster. Even after temporarily hiding in a safe place, Lucina still could not understand how that monster called Haitpu could change appearances at will, and yet had specifically taken on the appearance of Lady Lurba. This gave her an indescribable sense of discomfort. At that moment, a knock suddenly sounded at the door, startling both of them so badly that they shivered. "Hello there, I didn't have time to greet you just now." Seeing that only the woman from earlier had come, she immediately grew worried about the Holy Emperor's situation. "He can't defeat me, perhaps until the day he dies. He won't even be able to touch one of my fingers." "You're lying. What despicable trick did you use exactly?" Lucina's puffed-up little expression was completely different from the gentle obedience of the rumors, while the woman slowly walked toward them. She reached out and stroked that head of silvery white hair, causing Lucina's whole body to tremble slightly in fear. "Don't touch her." Seeing this, Titi slapped away the hand she had stretched toward Lucina. Although she was already trembling with fear all over, she still stubbornly stood in front of her mistress to protect her. But because the gap in strength between the two sides was too great, in the very next second, she was slapped hard to the ground. "Lucina, come here and leave with me. She directly refused, but at that very moment, a sharp pain suddenly came from her abdomen. It seemed that the child was about to be born, and it had to happen at such a time. Meanwhile, Hakan finally rushed back to the royal palace. He made his way all the way to the detached palace and sensed that the atmosphere was very wrong. But he did not think too much about it and still knocked on his wife's door with an excited heart. After the door opened, he finally saw the wife he had been separated from for half a year and had missed day and night. The man smiled and gently stroked her head. Then he pulled her tightly into his arms. I heard you were going to have the baby, so I hurried back to stay by your side. But his wife's abnormal behavior made him suspicious. He asked her why she had started stammering again when she spoke. She explained that perhaps it was because they had not seen each other for too long. He then deliberately asked where her maid had gone. She answered that the maid seemed to have gone to fetch something. You can't even pretend convincingly. Lucina has long since stopped stammering when speaking in front of me. And all this time, she has always directly called her maid by the name TT. Where exactly is the real Lucina? As he spoke, he raised the weapon in his hand and entered a state of alert. Unexpectedly, I was exposed this quickly. I had thought you would be as foolish as that guy and be easily deceived by appearances. This voice was all too familiar to Hakan. I am Marissa, the Dragon Slayer. He furiously demanded to know what exactly she had done to Lucina. Don't worry, I don't intend to kill her. After all, she is still very useful to me now. After saying that, her figure instantly disappeared from before his eyes. And at this time, the Holy Emperor, who had just been fighting that woman, arrived belatedly as well. After learning that Lucina had been abducted while staying with him, Hakan flew into a rage and questioned him on the spot, asking why he had failed to protect her. She is the daughter born of the Holy Emperor and a monster. Yet her mother only wanted to seize her divine power and the child in her womb. That way, she would be able to possess both healing power and the power of the dragon race at the same time. After learning that Lucina had been abducted while she had been with the Holy Emperor, Hakan angrily demanded to know why he had not protected her, since that monster was no match for him at all. And the reason he had been unable to harden his heart and strike was actually because that monster had taken on the appearance of the person he had once deeply loved. In the past, he had been deceived and had even foolishly fallen into a romantic relationship with her. I came here to protect my daughter and make up for the mistakes I made back then. What did you just say? Lucina is the daughter of Marissa and me. So it turned out that the wandering monster Heir had always coveted Tyre, the golden holy land. But in the wars of conquest, she repeatedly suffered setbacks. And as long as Heir devours a human heart, she can maintain that person's appearance for a lifetime and can even absorb that person's power. Marissa, who had always been unable to tolerate her ugly appearance, therefore set her sights on Lurba, the beautiful lady of the moon race. She mistakenly believed that the other party possessed great power, and so she took her heart. In other words, Lucina's healing power was inherited from her biological father. So Marissa transformed into the lady's appearance to seduce him and gave birth to a child with divine power. Then she planned to use that child to seize Tyre. Hearing this, Hakan frowned. Even after knowing that she was a monster, he still had a child with her, because he still held on to a sliver of hope that Heir had absorbed fragments of the lady's soul. Fortunately, that remnant of the soul was passed down through the child. The facts proved that his gamble had been right. Lucina not only looked exactly like her, but her soul was also exceptionally pure. In order to purify the Heir blood within the child, the Holy Emperor exhausted all of his sacred power. And this was precisely the reason he later fell into a deep sleep. Hakan also learned from him that his marriage to Lucina had actually been part of Marissa's plan as well. Then why didn't you come to Tyre and tell me? Because I had always been under Marissa's surveillance and simply could not get away. But now, everything is already over. However, Hakan was unwilling to leave it at that. He wanted to personally rescue Lucina. As Lucina's father, the Holy Emperor also lowered his head guiltily. There is someone who may know Marissa's whereabouts. When she drowsily opened her eyes, she discovered that at some point, she had actually returned to the Baron's house. The scenes of abuse from her childhood were still vividly etched in her mind. Just as she wanted to get up and flee, she discovered that both of her hands had already been firmly tied. At this moment, a voice suddenly came. Oh heavens, you're awake. How does it feel to be back at the Baron's house? This was the first true meeting between mother and daughter. Who could have imagined that the moment her mother appeared, she would take away both her divine power and her child? When Lucina learned that she was actually the daughter of a monster, her whole being was filled with disbelief. You say I am a monster, but aren't you a monster too? Because you are the daughter I gave birth to with my own hands. The name that person gave you was actually chosen quite well. Just like your name, You are as bright and beautiful as the moon." As she spoke, she stretched out a demonic claw to touch her head, but Lucina mercilessly slapped it away and firmly denied that she was her daughter. She also warned the other party that if she dared to touch her, Hakan would never let it go. However, Marissa began sowing discord in the relationship between the husband and wife. "Do you really think he loves you? He only forcibly brought you back to Tyre for the sake of producing offspring. The way he treated you well was also just an act to deceive you." Lucina did not believe a single word she said. In her heart, Hakan was the one who truly loved and saved her. But at that moment, a sharp pain suddenly came from her abdomen. As a mother, seeing her daughter trembling all over in pain, her face showed only indifference, without even the slightest bit of heartache. "If you cannot give birth to the dragon child, will he still continue to love you?" Before Lucina could understand the meaning of those words, who could have expected that in the very next second, the other party would directly cast black magic on her, causing her to cry out in pain. A large patch of blood instantly seeped out from her shoulder, yet pure divine power still remained wrapped around her body. Marissa was clearly very surprised. She had not expected that the Holy Emperor had used sacred power to purify the hype of blood within her. "I originally did not want to take away your divine power, but since you possess such powerful strength, then that is a different matter." The moment she finished speaking, she immediately seized Lucina's divine power. Lucina wanted to resist, but she was pinned down so tightly that she could not move at all. In the next second, her whole body became weak and powerless, and she collapsed heavily. But immediately afterward, intense pain swept through her whole body in an instant. Without healing power, it hurts, doesn't it? You may even die. But you'd better still safely give birth to the dragon child. As long as I obtain divine power and dragon blood, I will be able to kill your husband with ease." Even though her body had already deteriorated to the extreme, she still did not yield. "Hakan will definitely make you." But before she could finish speaking, she completely lost consciousness. After Marissa left, the necklace Lucina was wearing suddenly began to glow faintly. When Hakan and the Holy Emperor arrived, they discovered that Lucina was already unconscious, and no matter how they called to her, there was not the slightest sign of her waking up. The Holy Emperor immediately sensed that her condition was extremely dangerous. Lucina is still alive, but he flung back the blanket in one motion, only to find that her once swollen belly had become flat. Without a doubt, Marissa had taken the child away. He stood there in a daze, utterly devastated. The Holy Emperor immediately stepped forward and used holy power to heal her. Only then did she slowly open her eyes. The first thing she saw was Hakan's face, full of worry. The moment he reached out to support his wife, he immediately realized that the holy power inside Lucina had completely vanished. He almost instantly concluded that Marissa had taken that as well. After losing her healing power, pregnancy would cause tremendous harm to a dragon mother. The fact that Lucina was still alive was a miracle in itself. It turned out that when she was swallowed by Marissa's dark magic, the necklace gifted to her by the Holy Emperor had saved her life. The moment she placed her hand on her stomach, she froze instantly. The child, why was it gone? Not only had her holy power been taken away, even the child she had carried for 10 months and who was about to be born had been cruelly abducted by her own mother to increase her power. Lucina touched the belly that had once been swollen, but there was nothing left there but emptiness. She was stunned on the spot, unable to remember at all how the child had disappeared. It turned out that by the time Hakan and the Holy Emperor arrived, Marissa had already taken the child away first. Unable to bear the pain of losing her child, she chose to refuse to believe any of it. "You must be lying to me. How could my child possibly be gone?" As she spoke, she wept in agony, and large tears kept rolling down. Seeing that she was crying so hard, she was almost collapsing, Hakan held her painfully and comforted her, saying, "Even without the child, you still have me." "What do you mean, even without the child?" "We must save him for Marissa." But the Holy Emperor believed that Marissa had most likely already absorbed the child's power. Even if that child appeared again, it was highly possible that it would only be a form disguised by Marissa. So that child had to be eliminated. Hearing such a cruel conclusion, she cried even more heart-wrenchingly. After the couple returned to Tyre, what awaited them was an even crueler and harsher reality. Lucina was diagnosed by the priests as being unable to bear dragon children ever again. This undoubtedly made her already shattered heart suffer even more. Being unable to become pregnant again also meant that she understood she was no longer qualified to be Tyre's queen. She even felt that staying together with Hakan might become an impossible dream. But she blamed all of it on herself, reproaching herself for failing to protect the child. Meanwhile, while Hakan was listening to the dying report of his trusted subordinate, he was unexpectedly struck by a black magic arrow shot by a hype monster. After hurriedly treating the wound, the moment he learned of Lucina's condition, he immediately rushed anxiously to the side palace. That woman, who had cried to the verge of collapse after seeing her husband, instead turned her face away and told him to leave because she could no longer bear children and had no face left to face him. The current me can no longer become Tyre's queen. Seeing her like this, Hakan was so heartbroken he could hardly breathe. No one in this world is more important than you. I will never abandon my only wife. As he said this, he pulled her tightly into his arms, only hoping that she would not give up on their love. Although she was moved by her husband's deep affection, she also understood that no one else would ever accept a queen without children. Even if they do not accept you, it does not matter. If we cannot continue the bloodline because we have no child, then I can just give up the throne, can I? So don't be sad anymore. After saying that, he gently kissed her forehead. She never imagined that for her sake, her husband would be willing to give up the throne he had always worked so hard to protect. Very soon, the news that Lucina could no longer bear children spread throughout the entire palace. When the elders heard the rumor that Hakan was willing to give up the throne for a woman, they immediately gathered to hold a meeting. They even began inciting the Black and White Dragon clans to rebel. What is more, there is still an outstanding queen who can bear dragon offspring for you, so what do you have to worry about? All the dragons instantly understood that the person he was referring to was Galit. The queen could no longer become pregnant, so naturally, she could no longer continue being Tyre's queen. Yet Hakan was willing to give up the throne for her, but the clan members forced him to abandon Lucina and marry the vicious Galit instead, only because they had learned that Lucina could no longer bear dragon offspring. The Black and White Dragon clans had also already begun secretly plotting rebellion, and they were trying to find a way to restore Galit, who was imprisoned in the dungeon, to power again. That way, the other dragons could have dragon children with her and ensure the continuation of the throne. Therefore, Turan proposed that instead of waiting for them to make the first move, it would be better to marry Galit first. Hearing this, Hakan's face instantly darkened. To ask him to abandon Lucina, he would rather personally kill Galit and use that to quell the unrest. But if Galit really disappeared, that would not only fail to calm the rebellion among the dragon clans, it would ultimately lead to both sides being badly damaged and allow Tyre to fall into the hands of dragon slayers. Enough. He interrupted the other party emotionally out of control. Then, he directly drove Turan out. For the sake of the older brother who had sacrificed himself to save him, no matter what, he had to protect Tyre. But whenever he thought of the wife he loved deeply, his heart hurt so much he could barely breathe. Her brilliant smile, and all those warm little moments they had shared, whether it was Tyre or Lucina, both were more important to him than his own life. Yet fate cruelly forced him to choose between the two. Meanwhile, Lucina went out for a walk, but from a maid, she heard shocking news. Hakan had actually ordered Galit's release. She instantly lost her soul and stood there blankly. She began overthinking. Now that she was useless, was she going to be abandoned?
How could that be?
Even an outsider like me can tell just how deeply His Majesty loves you. So please, do not believe those rumors so easily. It would be better to ask His Majesty in person. But she had no courage to ask because she was afraid of what would happen if Hakan admitted it himself. While Jirai was changing his medicine, he spoke of his troubles. He pretended it was just a friend's story. If one wanted to protect the country and the throne, one would have to form a marriage alliance with a woman from an enemy nation and give up the woman one truly loved. The moment Jirai heard it, he understood that the person he was talking about was actually himself. If it were me, I would of course choose to protect the one I love. There are many ways to revive a kingdom, but I have never heard of any ruler who, after giving up his beloved, could ever find that love again. Those words were like a clap of thunder awakening a dreamer, finally giving him the answer to the question that had troubled him for so long. He finally understood what he should do next, so he decided to find Lucina and have a proper talk with her. When he arrived at the side palace, he found that his wife's eyes were badly swollen, as if she had just been crying. He had only just sat down when he immediately told her what he was thinking. As long as you do not mind, would you be willing to leave Tyre with me? To let go of all this tiresome power and fame? Between the throne and Lucina, he could only choose one. And Hakan, without the slightest hesitation, chose the one he loved. He planned to take her away and fly far from everything. Leave Tyre with me, and let's go somewhere where only the two of us can live. Hearing this, Lucina was completely stunned. She never imagined that Hakan would do this for her, that he would willingly give up the throne and the kingdom he had worked so hard to build. She hesitated and asked, then what about Tyre? Compared with Tyre, Lucina, you are the more important one. Even without me now, Tyre will not immediately fall into ruin. I believe that mother, now restored to her senses, and those outstanding ministers will also govern this country well. So, I hope you can trust me. Hakan did not force her to give him an answer immediately. Instead, he gave her enough time to think. She nodded gently and agreed to give him an answer a week later. He took his wife's little hand. He solemnly promised that he would never let her be alone again, and that even if they left this place, he would make sure she lived happily every day. After saying that, he lowered his head and kissed her hand deeply. But every single one of their movements was seen clearly by the spy hiding in the dark. Early the next morning when she woke up, Lucina foolishly pinched her own face. She only wanted to confirm whether everything that had happened yesterday had really been a dream. At that moment, Titi came in to attend to her. She discovered that her mistress was obviously in a much better mood today than yesterday. Really? How could you tell? Because your face clearly has the word happiness written all over it. Master and servant laughed and joked happily for a while. Then Titi went out to prepare breakfast for her. Who would have thought that just then, there was suddenly a knock at the door. The one who came was actually Turan, because he had heard that the king was preparing to leave Tyre with Lucina. So he had only one purpose in coming to see her. Please leave quietly by yourself. For a moment, she did not understand what he meant. As soon as the king leaves, Tyre will immediately fall into civil strife. In order to keep the country from being destroyed and to keep the people from being displaced, I beg you, you must leave Tyre. The heir fell silent for a moment, and she had to admit that Turan was right. Tyre truly could not do without Hakan. But even if she left alone, what if Hakan still insisted on chasing after her? Then be cruel, and do not leave His Majesty any hope. Tell him that you no longer love him. She simply could not do something like personally hurting Hakan. Turan did not want to hurt the king either, but now, this was already the only way. Enduring the pain in her heart, she made up her mind. All this time, Hakan had always been the one protecting her. This time, she would make the choice for him. No matter how unbearably reluctant she was to leave his side, she absolutely could not become a stumbling block in his path. Hakan had originally thought that Lucina would elope with him. Who would have known that before they left, she suddenly changed her mind. With the most resolute words, she cruelly rejected him. I will not leave with you. And as the king of a nation, he actually knelt down on those noble knees before his own wife. Almost humbly, he begged her not to leave. When he saw his wife appear before him, after dressing up with care, Hakan even blushed a little awkwardly and praised her for looking especially beautiful today. But Lucina smiled and suddenly strode closer. Are you nervous? The man instantly froze, momentarily at a loss. Seeing Hakan's reaction, she smiled and threw herself into his arms, and he naturally embraced his wife as well. Then he impatiently asked her, "Are you ready to leave with me now?" After saying that, he looked at her full of anticipation. I thought about it for a long time, about which path would be the right one. In the end, I have already decided. I will not leave with you. Hearing this, his expression changed abruptly, and his heart seemed to fall into an ice cellar in an instant. Think about it. It was not enough that you forcibly abducted me back from Brienne, and on top of that, you did not even protect our child. How am I supposed to feel safe going with you? So, I am going back to protect my great temple. Hakan, do not think about trying to keep me anymore. She clearly did not want to hurt him at all, yet she still endured unbearable pain and forced herself to say such heartless words. Hearing this, he completely panicked and almost pleaded with his wife not to abandon him, swearing that in the future, he would definitely protect her and their child. But Lucina interrupted him and told him not to say any more. And she kept blaming him. She put all the responsibility for losing the child onto him. Every word that came from his wife's mouth was like a sharp blade stabbing fiercely into Hakan's heart. But even so, he still wanted to win her back. The next second, with a thud, he knelt before Lucina. Almost humbly, he spoke of his own faults. Before I met you, I was always an immature person. But now, I am willing to give up everything for you. Watching her husband kneel before her and beg bitterly, her heart was clearly already hurting so much it was about to split apart. Yet the words that came out of her mouth were still the cruelest ones. If you still love me, then let me leave. After saying that, she did not look back again and turned away with a hardened heart. And at that moment, his heart completely plunged into the abyss. He could only stare blankly at her retreating figure until she disappeared completely. After Lucina ran out of the side palace, she finally could not hold it in any longer, and tears instantly burst from her eyes. Large teardrops kept rolling down her cheeks one after another. The reason she did this was all for Hakan, because he was Tyre's great and noble king, and she absolutely could not become a stumbling block on his path forward. These past few days, Hakan had remained deeply depressed. He kept thinking of the way Lucina looked that day when she said goodbye to him, and also the very last moment when she left. Those images lingered in his mind and would not go away. Even later, when he personally went to the side palace to beg her, she still never opened the door for him. Just then, Turan took the opportunity to bring up the marriage with Galit once again. But Hakan's mind was full of Lucina. He did not listen to a single word Turan said, and only threw out one sentence, telling him to handle it himself. The next day, Lucina walked out of the palace carrying her luggage, her eyes filled with reluctance. Jirai and Titi accompanied her to see her off. She knew she had to leave as soon as possible, because if she stayed any longer, she would only become even more reluctant. In the end, she got into the carriage without looking back. And after Lucina left, on the other side, Galit also walked out of the prison surrounded by the crowd. They planned to take advantage of Hakan's distracted state over Lucina on the wedding day to launch a rebellion. She did not care at all who became king. As long as the position of Tyre's queen belonged to her in the end, that was enough. The moment she came out, she could not wait to start choosing her wedding dress. At a glance, she fell in love with a pure white, light, dazzling gown. Only because at first sight, It looked exactly like the style Lucina would like. She even deliberately took the wedding dress to Hakan to show off. "I chose this one to wear on the wedding day. What do you think?" The moment Hakan saw the style she had chosen, his expression instantly darkened. Then he snatched the dress away in one motion, and in a cold voice, he warned her that only Lucina was qualified to wear that dress. Galit said mockingly, "It does not matter who wears this dress. What matters is that your majesty must produce dragon heirs through marriage." How disgusting. I do not care at all. If I cannot even be with the one I love, then what meaning do any of these things have? The next second, he actually tore the dress to pieces. And with absolute determination, he declared that he would never go through with this wedding. With even Lucina having left him, he had already lost the reason to keep protecting Tyr's throne. He might as well end all of this with his own hands. Meanwhile, the Holy Emperor was taking Lucina to the Great Temple, and all the while she felt vaguely uneasy. The Holy Emperor noticed her low spirits, so he tried to comfort her by saying, "If anything is wrong, you can ask me for help. But even if I ask you, you cannot heal the wound in my heart. So in the end, this is something I can only overcome by myself. Then at the very least, I can be a listener. If you have troubles, you can tell me anytime." Who would have thought that just then, Puka suddenly ran over to find Lucina, and right there in public, transformed directly and flusteredly told her that something had happened to Hakan. Anxiously, she grabbed the little spirit by the shoulders and told it to explain clearly. Hakan. He jumped into the Valley of Fire because his wife no longer wanted him. With resolute determination, Hakan jumped into the Valley of Fire, where scorching magma churned. He would rather die like that than marry a woman he did not love. That burning magma would soon completely swallow him. And in order to save her husband, Lucina, without almost a moment of hesitation, jumped down after him as well. After learning from the little spirit that Hakan had jumped into the Valley of Fire, Lucina endured the pain brought by the scorching heat and rushed in without hesitation. At that moment, the Holy Emperor cast holy power behind Lucina. Very quickly, a protective barrier formed around her body, shielding her from the blazing heat coming from the Valley of Fire. And precisely because of this, she was able to successfully find that unconscious man in the searing magma. Her heart also heavily sank to the bottom at that moment. She did not hesitate at all. She jumped down resolutely. Turan was utterly shocked, but it was already too late to stop her. The Holy Emperor continuously cast holy power on Lucina to help her resist the waves of extreme heat. Even though his power was being rapidly depleted, he still gritted his teeth and held on. She struggled forward step by step toward where Hakan was. Painfully, she held him in her arms, but no matter how she called his name, there was no sign of him waking up. They could not stay here long. Using her frail body, she dragged him ashore bit by bit with great difficulty. She held his burning hot hand and almost pleaded, "Hakan, please open your eyes. I still have so many things I want to say to you." Perhaps he truly heard the call of the one he loved. That severely injured man finally slowly opened his eyes. Am I seeing things? You're not seeing things. I came. But the places burned by magma made the pain almost unbearable for him. Lucina's heart felt as though it had been viciously stabbed as well. While comforting him to hold on a little longer, she told him that they would be leaving here soon. Very soon, the two of them finally returned safely to the top. Under the Holy Emperor's treatment, Hakan's body also quickly recovered to normal. Only after confirming that he was truly all right did Lucina's tightly strung heart finally relax a little. But what surged up immediately afterward was endless regret. Choking with sobs, large tears began falling from her eyes again. "I thought leaving Tyre was what was best for you. If I had known you would suffer like this, then no matter what, I would never have left your side." After learning the whole story from beginning to end, Hakan never once blamed her. He only felt that the reason Lucina had left was because he had still not managed to make her trust him without reservation. Hearing this, she raised those misty tear-filled eyes. "Promise me one thing. You must never leave me again." She nodded through tears. "Of course. From now on, I will stay by your side forever, but I will never be able to get pregnant again." Hakan quickly interrupted her. "The person I love is you. Other than you, I will never marry any other woman or have children with anyone else." Only then did the Holy Emperor learn that Lucina was no longer able to bear children. Hakan told him that she had been plotted against by Marissa back then, and her body had suffered extremely severe damage. The Holy Emperor said that he would heal Lucina's body, even if he had to exhaust all of his holy power. Hearing this, the couple immediately thanked him excitedly. After they returned to the palace, Jirai brought another astonishing piece of good news. That was that their child was actually still alive. The man was so shocked that he could not speak for a moment. From his explanation, they learned that dragons connected by bloodline could sense each other's existence through the umbilical cord. So if they wanted to confirm whether the child was still alive, aside from the child's parents. They would also need the Holy Emperor's blood. As long as the blood of the three people was fused together, they could roughly infer the child's potential and the possibility of the child's survival. And the final experimental result showed that when Lucina and Hawken's blood was fused together, astonishing power would erupt. If the child had inherited the abilities of both of them, then even a hype monster would not be able to harm him easily. The couple became even more excited after hearing this and quickly urged him to tell them where the child was. Meanwhile, that woman whose face was covered in wounds showed an expression of disbelief. Why can't she eat this little thing?